Hello, shopkeep. I'm shopping for some tires today.
Oh, lovely. Well, we have these tires over here. These are good for snow driving.
Okay, what about these ones here?
Oh, these are good for off-roading.
I need something that's good on Streets of Fire.
I don't want to see an ordinary film. I want to see something extraordinary.
Your sacrifice completes my sanctuary of 1,000 testicles.
Do you ever feel as if your mind had started to erode?
Let's rock indeed. Welcome to 1000 Wives of Weird, the podcast where we discuss weird film. I'm Billy Martell, and with me as always is...
Brad Hefner.
And today we are discussing a weird film from the 80s. We're going right back to our first episode.
We're going back to
our
1984,
roots.
which is the year of Repo Man and Buckaroo Banzai.
And Buckaroo Banzai. We're going back to the era of tracks.
Tracks.
And we're going to be talking about a film where the plot, described by its director Walter Hill, is the Queen of the Hop has been kidnapped by the leader of the pack, and Soldier Boy comes home to do something about it.
Yeah.
Streets of Fire, a rock and roll parable.
A rock and roll fable.
A rock and roll fable.
Do you want to take that again?
No, I'll just leave that mistake in there.
Okay.
Rock and roll fable.
It's a rock and roll fable. One of the reasons why I bought the movie.
Mm-hmm. With a tagline like that, how can you go wrong?
Yeah. It's very briefly, aside from Walter Hill's wonderful summation.
Wonderful. How would you describe this plot, other than that?
It's a rock and roll starlet gets kidnapped by Willem Dafoe.
Yes.
And her ex-paramour comes back into town to fight the baddies and rescue her. And there's a bunch of great music.
It's in a fantasy world.
Where it's sort of like, if you've ever seen the film Brick, which we need to bring on the show at some point, where it's in high school, but everyone's acting like adults. This is sort of the opposite, where it's like, it's not in high school, but everyone's acting like they're in high school.
One of the writers, Larry Gross, said that this movie was an expansion on the world in the movie The Warriors.
I can see that.
Which I have not seen. Is another movie like Brick that I have not seen. But another description of the film's vibe from, again, the director and writer Walter Hill said that the film came out of a desire to make what he thought was the perfect film when he was a teenager.
Yes.
Things that were great then, which I still have great affection for: custom cars, kissing in the rain, neon, trains in the night, high-speed pursuit rumbles, rock stars, motorcycles, jokes in tough situations, leather jackets, and questions of honor. And then when they were looking at the dailies, Larry Gross turned to him and said, "This movie is somewhat weirder than we thought," which is about when Brad and I come in.
Yes.
But yeah, so before we get into too much of the plot summary, too much of the spoilers, as usual, but we do, as always, recommend that you watch these movies and get your own opinion before we spoil them for you. But regardless, we're going to give you our spoiler-free thoughts at the top as always. Brad, would you recommend Streets of Fire?
100% yes. Mm-hmm. It's not uncommon for me to blind buy Blu-rays. In fact, I'm mostly blind buy.
Yes.
Buy something without having seen it prior.
You, more than most, I think most people like to avoid spoilers. You like to avoid spoilers more than the average person.
Yes.
You like to go into things completely blind.
And a lot of these things, at times, they aren't available for streaming or rent or whatever.
Yeah.
But I was cruising Letterboxd looking for movies for this show, and I come across Streets of Fire with its beautiful, stylistic, almost Van Gogh-like poster. Mm-hmm. And
using pointillism in that poster?
I don't think Van Gogh used pointillism.
I think he famously did, but he did a bunch of dots. I think that's what Van Gogh's famous for.
I don't think that's correct.
Okay.
But I don't know enough to argue with you.
That's all right.
And then I saw the cast, which includes Willem Dafoe, Rick Moranis.
Oh my God.
Bill Paxton.
Yes.
Bill Paxton's a very small part.
Very small, but man.
And directed by the great Walter Hill, who you have most certainly heard of, wrote and directed The Warriors.
Yes.
A great early 80s sort of Deliverance crossed with Platoon movie called Southern Comfort.
Oh.
Which has a lot of great actors in it. Probably most well known for 48 Hours, which I have not seen.
With Eddie Murphy and Nick Nolte, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Brewster's Millions, oddly enough. Extreme Prejudice, which has a stacked cast, but is not... I didn't enjoy it much. He contributed to the story for Aliens.
Oh.
And he wrote and produced Aliens 3.
Interesting. Okay.
And he also did movie called The Assignment.
Yes, which has been living in my head for a long time, though I haven't seen it, just because the premise is so fucking weird.
Yeah, why don't you tell them?
The Assignment is a movie that I heard about like not too long ago, and it's a movie starring Michelle Rodriguez, who is as an action, not an action star because she doesn't get to star in movies, but as an action actress is someone I've always been kind of a fan of, who is a hit man, not a hit woman, a hit man, who wakes up one day to discover that she has been forcibly gender reassigned into a woman, and goes after the surgeon who did the surgery to her without her consent, Sigourney Weaver, to get bloody revenge. That premise is so odd and upsetting.
Yeah, that is...
And tone deaf, I want to say. I don't know. I don't know what the fuck the idea is. Walter Hill... Great filmmaker, doesn't seem like the greatest person around.
I would agree, but it's also... The Assignment came out in 2016.
True.
And he did write it. And in 2016, he was 74 years old.
Right. No, but like, I was looking in behind the scenes information about this movie, and he...
Oh, he seems like a bit of a prick.
He seems like he's always been a bit of a prick, and, you know, that does happen.
But but Streets of Fire...
is not a prick.
And then I watched the trailer for it, which I usually do not do.
Right. Again, you don't want to get spoilers.
I was so curious about it, and I watched it, and I was like... I think I even, like, texted you. I sent you the trailer, and I texted you. I was like, I'm getting this. Yeah. It's a rock and roll fable.
Right. You know, you were stoked about this even before you watched it.
And I actually got it in case you're a fucking 1,000 Wives of Weird head and you like to construct a timeline.
Sure.
I got it before we recorded our first episode with Spring, and I had brought that along to the recording in case we wanted to watch something after.
Yeah.
We didn't watch that. I went home and watched it. Next time we got together, I made you watch it.
Yes, and my life has never been the same.
It's just fantastic. It's not a perfect movie.
No.
But...
And there are things we'll talk about.
The music is phenomenal. Some of it doesn't do it for me, but a lot of it's great.
Most of it is phenomenal.
Over the top. It's this weird pastiche of Western and high school rumblers, and fucking... The costumes are nuts, and everything is... It's just so fun. It's so fun in a way that, like... I would love a remake of this film. It would... But I don't think anyone would let you have this much fun. Walter Hill got to make this movie because he was just coming off of 48 Hours.
Which was hugely successful.
And I don't think this would have ever gotten made if he hadn't found that success. Because this is an oddball. And it's not... Again, we deal in variations of weird. This is not Holy Mountain.
No.
But if you watch this, you're going to be like, what the fuck?
This is a deeply weird movie.
It is.
I having some distance from this film, for a while, we kept talking about bringing it on the show, and you said, I'm going to let you bring it on the show to me. You said, I'm going to let you bring it on the show, and I was never sure whether or not I should, because as the distance moved on from it, I remembered the arc of the plot.
Yeah.
And if you just describe, like, the basics of the plot, as we did on the top of this episode, it doesn't sound that weird.
No.
It's the experience of actually watching it. Like, when you're
it's letting
in it,
everything wash over you and being like, this is...
It's a deeply weird movie.
It's something that I should be calling stupid, but I can't because it's so damn good.
It's so damn good, and it is weird in I would put it on like Tron levels of weird, where like the bare bones of the plot are extremely conventional, sure, but the visuals and the guts it took to make a film like this, the weird amount of money that got thrown at this crazy ass idea is insane. And I recommend this 100% as hard as I could recommend anything. Yes, there are definitely flaws in the movie. It is not perfect, and there are a couple of things about it that have not aged well, but by and large, a majority of this film is this window into this present-day set, or at least 80s present-day set, fairy tale universe
that's
where...
both the 80s, but also the 50s.
It's also the 50s, also like,
the Wild West.
The Wild West, the 1920s, like, it's...
Oh, that reminds me that Walter Hill also did Last Man Standing, which is great. Poorly critically reviewed, but I loved it.
Which one's the Last Man
Bruce
Standing?
Willis, Yojimbo remake. Which was actually a remake.
That's right.
Adaptation of Dashiell Hammett's Red Harvest.
Yes.
So in a way, Last Man Standing is a more true adaptation of the source material
than Yojimbo
or Fistful of Dollars.
Right. Yeah. That's just... Wow, what a fascinating trip that is. That whole sentence was. The world of Streets of Fire. So I was just talking to Steven recently.
Has he seen this?
Steven has not seen this, but he has seen a movie that we talked about recently, Buckaroo Banzai.
And he's a fan of that. I saw on Letterboxd.
Huge fan of it. It's one of his family's favorite movies. It's one of his dad's favorite movies of all time. And so he did not agree with us. And,
of course.
And he and I were talking back and forth because we disagree and we can agree and we can be okay with that.
You had to explain to him why he's dumb.
Yeah, exactly. I was insulting him is what was happening. But he was saying the same thing that I think we were talking about with that movie is like, it's weird that this movie has this whole universe that lives inside this writer's head. And it's almost like, shit, I wish we could have seen more of that universe.
Yeah.
And that's... Now, you and I didn't vibe with Buckaroo Banzai.
No.
But I vibe with this.
Oh, we vibe real hard.
This is the movie where I feel like that. Where I'm like...
Well, that was sort of...
Shit, I want... And yeah, the Walter Hill did have an idea. He wanted there to be a huge series based around Tom Cody, the main character of this film. He wanted, like... He even, like... I think he put a note at the end of the script that was like, this is book 1 of the adventures of Tom Cody. The story will continue in book 2. I want that series so bad.
I wish that would have been like an Indiana Jones, like another...
Sure.
Although... Drop Michael Paré. Who is the big dud of the movie.
He's the lodestone around this movie's neck. Michael Paré is the actor who plays Tom Cody. Honestly, if this had been from The Adventures of McCoy...
Oh my god, that's what I wanted.
Even better, because that's what I really want. And again, we will get into spoilers in the section. You'll know who McCoy is. A lot of people are just listening to this, just imagining like I'm talking about Dr. Leonard James McCoy from Star Trek. Just tooling around a rock and roll landscape. Just like...
He's got the boogie woogie fever.
He's got the... Jim, he's dead. He died from boogie woogie fever. That also sounds like a great movie, though. Just like Leonard McCoy just wandering around being... being the only person...
talking at
being
me.
The only person in this rock and roll universe who doesn't like rock and roll at all.
Well, maybe he would like the Sorrells.
You whippersnappers. Man, I love the world of this movie. I love the creativity of this movie. And it does kind of feel like a movie that should have blown up and turned into this massive, expansive comic book universe. There are many very legit reasons why it didn't.
Yes.
My God, this movie is...
1984 was a bad year for starting franchises. Buckaroo Banzai, Streets of Fire.
Oh, man. Did they ever want to make Repo Man? Well, they did. They did try and make Repo Man
into
a franchise.
Well, they made Repo Girl much later.
Yeah.
When Alex Cox was making...
real bad movies in front of a blue screen in his basement.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Micro-budget movies.
Micro-budget movies. Like Micronauts, but less fun.
Yeah. I will probably watch that someday.
Yeah.
I don't even know if it's available to procure anyway, but...
Sadly, the only continuation of Streets of Fire is also a much lower budget sequel made not by Walter Hill, but by somebody else in 2008.
Oh, it really?
Called Road to Hell.
I've never heard of this.
You're the one who told me about this. And
did I?
Yeah, you did, back when we first watched it, and I looked it up when I was taking notes on this movie. The only thing that comes back from this movie is Michael Paré. He comes back to play Tom Cody again, and in a plot where he has to save the daughter of the rock star from this movie, and they play some of the songs from this movie, including our favorite one. And I looked up that scene just to watch it because we love that song.
Yes.
And it is fucking depressing.
Oh, wow. Okay.
It's not a good time.
I completely forgot that I learned about that and told you about it.
That's okay.
I must have blocked it out for a reason, and now you've uncovered my trauma.
Yeah, clearly. Yeah, no, this is me pushing your buttons.
Yep.
This episode's the opposite of therapy. I'm going to bring up
no.
all your bad trauma.
Oh, shit, it's psychic driving.
But yes, let's go nowhere fast.
Yes.
Let's blast into the plot of one of the greatest movies you've never seen.
Just another background thing.
Oh, yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
Walter Hill wanted to make like a comic book movie.
That's right, I did hear about this.
But he looked through comic books at the time and was like, these are all trash.
Didn't like a single comic book character.
Didn't like a single one, but he wanted that sort of
vibe.
Feel.
Yeah.
And it's also, he wanted, because this is a high school story, even though Michael Paré is like 28, Diane Lane or Diane Lane?
Is it Diane Lane or Diane Keaton?
It's not Diane Keaton, but I always confuse Diane Lane and Diane Ladd.
It's whoever played Superman's mom in Man of Steel. Because the first time we watched this, I couldn't get past the fact that it was Superman's mom from Man of Steel. So even though like her performance in the movie is fine, and I quite liked her the second time I watched it, the first time I watched it, I kept thinking like, ooh, like just like leftover hatred for the Snyderverse kept spilling over into my viewing of this movie.
It's Diane Lane.
That's it. Okay.
But she was actually 18.
Yeah, she was.
But everyone else was 20s.
Mm-hmm. She was the youngest member of the cast, but she was simultaneously one of the most experienced in terms of acting.
She had just worked with Coppola.
Yes, which is how she got the job. They were like, "Oh my God, you worked with Coppola."
The other thing was that even though they're in high school, that's how I got started talking about ages.
Gotcha.
Michael Paré was like 28. Diane Lane is like 18. Walter Hill didn't want this to be like a bloody film. He didn't want there to be a lot of killing. He wanted to keep it.
Which I think is part of why I like this movie. I think that that's a positive with this film.
In a way, especially for a filmmaker like Walter Hill, who likes his blood and action.
Sure, yeah.
That's sort of a brave choice. Like,
yeah, and I do think that it hurt the movie. I think that
I think because some goofy shit happens.
Yeah.
Where it's like, they should be dead.
Yeah. No, in the 80s, the 80s was one of the last times when gore was actually... I mean, gore is still a selling point now for people like us and for a lot of people out there. But it was the last time that I feel like studios went for that sort of thing, where you have movies like Evil Dead 2 or movies like Die Hard and Commando, where they'll just be like these splashes of violent, like horrible mutilations happening on screen. It's just like, yeah, that's what the audience wants.
I mean, you're ignoring Quentin Tarantino in the 90s.
That's very true. That's very true. But like, I feel like that was something of a selling point when it came to action movies in the 80s in particular. And like late 80s, early 90s, maybe because this is 84, I'm completely wrong. And that, Larry Gross anyway is quoted as saying, I think if we put more gore in the movie, more people would have watched it.
Not even more gore, just like squibs. Just some blood spray. Just have Tom Cody go ham with that rifle.
But instead, just like I was talking about with Buckaroo Banzai, this movie is very A-team, where there's a lot of bullets flying and a lot of property being wrecked, but nobody's permanently injured. Nobody goes to the hospital. Nobody is killed.
But it feels like it's so much more natural to this universe than it does with Buckaroo Banzai.
Yeah, it's also very much like the universe of going to Western, since this movie is so heavily Western inspired. It feels
I'm gonna shoot the gun out of your hand.
Exactly, it's the Lone Ranger. It's like I'm always gonna use gun. I'm always using guns, but somehow I'm never gonna kill.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right, so let's get into it.
So, we begin...
One of the greatest movie openings ever.
I was about to say, one of the greatest openings in cinematic history, specifically one of the greatest musical openings in cinematic history. There's the Star Wars theme kicking in over the title crawl, the Jets snapping their fingers in West Side Story.
We learned that this
Any movie where Queen did the soundtrack, and then there's this movie.
We learned that this is another time, another place.
Which was a caption that was inspired
by Star Wars.
By Star Wars' caption that had come out a few years earlier. They realized that, I don't remember if this was from Walter Hill or Larry Gross, but one of them was saying that they realized, oh yeah, you don't have to set movies in reality, and your fantasies don't have to all happen outside of a castle in a forest somewhere. You can just set a fantasy anywhere. What if we set a fantasy in a city.
Yeah.
Hill said that he was also partially inspired by Cocteau in his
Yes.
movie La Belle and La Bête.
Bizarrely.
But like, it makes sense because La Belle and La Bête, his version of The Beauty and the Beast, which is the second most famous adaptation of that story aside from the Disney version, famously starts off with a narration and a title crawl that says, when you're watching this movie, please watch this movie with the mind of a child.
Yes.
Accept this world as if you were a child hearing the story. Basically, that is what the movie's saying. Hey, this doesn't take place in Chicago, where some of the location shooting took place. This movie takes place in another time and another place.
And it is a rock and roll fable. And that's a 1-2 punch.
Yes.
That immediately is like, I think you're either on board or you're not at this point.
Yeah.
Like if you see Another Time, Another Place, Streets of Fire, a rock and roll fable.
Yeah. That's either entirely your jam or it is not your jam at all.
And maybe you'll get on board later once things actually happen.
Sure.
But I know for me, I was like, yes.
Yeah.
Yes,
yeah.
I'm ready for this ride.
I can see someone, like, the first time we watched it, I liked it a lot less than the second time I watched it for the show.
Understandable.
I still really liked it, but I liked it way better the second time. And part of the reason for that is that while the vibe of a rock and roll fable is great, there are things that detract from it, and again, we will get into it. The title was, again, Streets of Fire. This was an intentional reference to the Bruce Springsteen song, which they thought they were going to be able to use, and then they were not able to use it, apparently because Bruce Springsteen didn't like that he wasn't going to be in the movie.
Well, he wasn't... No, just that they weren't going to use his vocals.
They weren't going to use his vocals. They were going to use someone else's vocals because they were going to have one of the characters sing it in the movie.
It was going to be Diane Lane. It was
Diane
going to be
Lane.
Ellen Aim.
The movie is a musical, which was apparently a last-minute decision based on the success of Flashdance. Which is crazy to me because the fact that it is a musical feels so integral to the universe of the movie that I can't imagine it any other way. But apparently it was a fairly late-stage addition.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But this is not a musical. It's not like Cats or Dear Evan Hansen.
No, there is only one non-diegetic musical number. Most of the other musical numbers in the movie take place through performances on stage. But it is still a musical because there is that one non-diegetic musical number.
Okay. Have we mentioned that Joel Silver was involved with this film?
No, remind me who Joel Silver is.
Joel Silver is one of the great super producers. Let me read off some of his producing credits.
Yeah, go ahead.
48 Hours, Weird Science, Commando, Lethal Weapon, Predator, Die Hard, Roadhouse, Lethal Weapon 2, Die Hard 2, Predator 2, Lethal Weapon 3,
shit.
Demolition Man, Lethal Weapon 4, The Matrix.
Jesus, this guy is just dominated popcorn cinema for years.
One of my favorite movies, Kiss Kiss Bang Bang.
Sure.
And that was just producing credits. Here's
Yeah.
executive producer.
All right.
Streets of Fire.
Yeah. Joel Silver, apparently, by the way, is the reason why Rick Moranis is in this, because he and Rick Moranis were friends.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, that was the only good executive producer credit he had.
Oh, just Streets of Fire?
Yeah, no, there's some duds on here.
Hey, Joel Silver knows how to distance himself from work he's not as proud of, apparently.
Oh,
yeah.
He also produced Fred Claus.
I haven't seen Fred Claus. Maybe it's amazing. I haven't seen it.
It could be. Mm-hmm. You're right. Whenever I think of Fred Claus, I think of when Jean-Ralphio is coaching Tom on his best man speech. He's like, I want to do a Vaughn quote, either, which I do, from Crashers or Swingers. Fred Claus.
I've heard that Paul Giamatti is a fantastic Santa.
I believe it.
In that movie. But if he's Paul Giamatti, I'm not sure he's capable of a bad performance.
True.
Much like Rick Moranis. So the music immediately starts up as the credits come up. It's just a big, it's kicking in. It has the same feeling if you've ever watched the animated Transformers, the movie from the 80s, when that opening title starts and you just hear the drums coming dump, 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 and the little guitar riff in the background before it gets into that.
You got the touch.
Not even that song yet.
Oh.
It's a cover of the Transformers theme song by a band called Lion.
Okay.
And it's just one of the coolest movie openings of all time. But it's that feeling. But before we get to the song, as it's building, we see a quick montage of flashes of some of the most incredible sets you've ever seen in your life.
And all sets.
All sets. There are apparently some shots in the movie that were location shots. Very few.
But mostly sets.
Most of this movie, it all takes place mostly outdoors in a city, and almost all of this is sets. The movie was something like $14 million over budget by the end of it, because
this is Walter Hill's Apocalypse Now.
This is Walter Hill's Apocalypse Now, where they were essentially like Gotham City in the Tim Burton Batman movies. They built an entire city to the specifications of this magical world that Walter Hill had in his head.
500 extras.
Yes.
To populate the city.
Yes, the AD's entire job was just directing all the extras, which apparently was a nightmare. They created a city that looks like New York, it looks like Chicago, which is what it was meant to look like. It looks like all of these, of course it's not Chicago, it's not New York, it's another place in another time. But they created this whole world that's so specific and so... My God, I love this city.
Yeah.
It's one of those places like the rooftop set in Mary Poppins during the Step in Time sequence, or Gotham City in the Tim Burton Batman movies. I just want to be there. Yeah. I want to visit this place. I want to run around in this world.
I want like a GTA style Streets of Fire game.
Oh my God. Fuck, that would be incredible.
It would be fantastic.
I would never stop playing that game. I would stop doing the show. I would only do that game.
Sure.
Yeah.
You would only fuck that game.
I would only fuck that game.
You would put your dick right through the hole in the center.
Right through the hole all day long. And yet still playing it, so my dick would just be smashed into the PS4.
You would have two copies.
Yes.
One to play and one to fuck, like a true collector.
Right, like a true collector. Exactly.
But yeah, we get a little montage. We see... We get the... but we see people around town, like... getting ready to go to this show. This is the big show. It's Ellen Aim and the Attackers.
Oh my God.
Local girl makes good.
You can't miss Ellen Aim and the Attackers, man.
Because she's from there.
Yeah.
They know her.
This is a religion. Brad, how would you describe the aesthetic of this universe?
It's like if the 80s met the 50s, and Tom Cody looks like he's from the Depression.
Yes.
And McCoy looks like she's from... the Korean War, and Ellen Aim looks pure 80s.
Yes.
And Rick Moranis looks timeless as always. It's hard to pin down because it's such a pastiche.
They said, hey, I want every part of the 20th century in America in one area.
Yes.
Is from the 1910s to the 80s, all of that in one city.
Pretty much.
In one world.
And you get vibes of that in this opening, like you see a very traditional diner.
Yes.
Where Tom Cody's sister runs it and works it. And that's
Riva.
Yeah.
Great character.
Oh, I love Riva.
Riva's the best.
And that looks very 50s. But the venue looks very 80s.
Yes.
Like it looks very contemporary.
The venue, I believe, is one of the only real locations that they have. It's like a real theater that they rented out.
But every car you see driving around is like the 50s.
Yes.
So it's
this like
weird
a very old 50s. Everything has a layer of dust on it, an inch thick.
It's sort of the Gotham City aspect, where it's dark and gritty.
And there's there's a roof to the world. Everyone's always going under a bridge at all times.
Well, it was all filmed under a huge tarpaulin.
That's right. Yes, I didn't understand that when they were talking about it. What is that?
A tarp.
Oh, literally just a big tarp?
Yeah.
So they're just filming inside of a gigantic tent.
Yes.
Jesus.
This is a wonderful trick that the movie plays. Again, no one dies. Spoiler alert. You don't see much blood. But already this aesthetic, this darkness, is making us think the movie is much grittier and darker than it actually is.
It gives that idea of like you can do fantasy without doing it in what is a Dungeons and Dragons setting, a traditional fantasy setting, with this idea of like, this is a cityscape that gives you the sense of I'm in an enchanted forest. Or like I'm in the Old West. I'm in a saloon or something like that. And it's so fucking good. I wrote down trying to describe this vibe, because it's the only time I've ever seen this vibe anywhere. Rockabilly / used future of Star Wars, sort of like that. Cross between those things.
That's part of it, but it's not. It's such a wide pastiche that it's. You just kind of need to see it. But
some of the only dialogue we get here, Rick Moranis is introduced very quickly. He's getting the rare opportunity for Rick Moranis to play a complete asshole.
A complete asshole, and also someone who habitually stands up to the tough hero.
Yes, which honestly, awesome. I
loved it.
I love Rick Moranis so much.
And this was I think this was before Ghostbusters.
Yes.
And this was before he became a Disney mainstay.
Right.
So this was very early Rick Moranis.
Very early Rick Moranis. He was known, but he wasn't Ghostbusters.
He wasn't the international sex symbol that he would become.
Exactly. Yeah. International sex symbol Rick Moranis.
Rick Moranis would go to press junkets for Honey, I Blew Up the Kid. Mm-hmm. And he would do the Iggy Pop, where he would just take out his dick and lay it on the microphone.
Right, yes. He would do exactly that. And yes, as opposed to Diane Lane, who would just go around doing the Ozzy Osbourne biting heads off of bats.
Yes.
Finally, the build-up gets to this absolutely insane crescendo, and the announcer comes on and says, we find out from Rick Moranis that the show is a complete passion project for Ellen Aim.
It's for charity, I guess.
He calls it a charity project. I think the idea is that they're in an area where people can't afford their normal ticket prices.
Gotcha.
But like they're not actually making back much on this show. Ellen Aim is here because this is where she came from.
Exactly.
And the announcer establishes that by saying, and now back home again, the one, the only, Ellen Aim. And then we get best thing ever.
This is if you don't fall in love with this movie by the end of this song called Nowhere Fast, written by Meatloaf songwriter Jim Steinman,
also Bonnie Tyler songwriter Jim Steinman.
It feels like a Bonnie Tyler song too.
He wrote both Bad Out of Hell and Total Eclipse of the Heart.
It feels like both of them.
So he is one of the greatest songwriters of all time. There's Jim Steinman, and then like a little bit lower down the list you have Amadeus Mozart and Ludwig van Beethoven.
Yes. But like it's when I first watched this, I was like, this is the most perfect song that Meatloaf never recorded. And it makes sense because it's a Meatloaf songwriter.
Yeah.
And Meatloaf did do a song called Nowhere Fast that has completely different lyrics.
Different lyrics?
Completely different.
I knew that it was like slower. I didn't know that he did different lyrics
Completely different lyrics.
That sucks.
Yes.
I knew that it sucked before, but I didn't know how bad it sucked. This song, if America made this the national anthem, I would be proud of my country again.
I would never kneel again.
Exactly.
For anything.
For any reason.
Just in case somebody thought I was protesting the national anthem.
Right, yeah, just for any reason.
Like, if you're familiar with Meatloaf,
you know that,
you get sort of the vibe. It's very much his, like, it's very, like...
this epic
song about, like...
the most powerful of all power ballads...
It's
again Total Eclipse of the Heart, the Bonnie Tyler vibe. Like, this song gets into my soul.
It's a power jam. It's a power jam and a half. I just lying in your bed and on a Saturday night you're sweating buckets and it's not even hot. Those fucking two lines are so evocative. Lying in your bed and on a Saturday night.
Oh my
You're
God.
young. You should be out there and you're sweating, but it's not even hot. Why are you sweating? Because your brain has got a message and it's sending it out to every nerve and every muscle you got. You got so many dreams that you don't know where to put them, so you better cut a few of them loose.
Oh God!
And we're also getting into like
testify
the dreariness of the landscape, where it's like, oh man, you want to get out, but you're not going to, so you might as well let it go. And it's.
We've talked about how difficult it is to take notes for this show when it's a movie that we like. This scene, I was taking notes. This scene came on. I involuntarily dropped my phone out of my hand, which I was using to take notes, and just like clapping, my hands were in the air, raised towards God. I was just like exalted. And then I wrote notes based on what I could remember and then rewatched the scene again and then finished the movie and then watched the scene a third time. My God, like this is... Now, unfortunately, this is sort of a Blade situation where this is the peak of the movie. The rest of the movie is also great.
But this is so fucking amazing.
But this is... I wrote down, this is the holy mountain. This scene should be studied in a laboratory. Like, this should be worshipped by film students. We should wake up every morning and watch this scene before going out and studying movies.
Dying in the city like a fire on the water. Let's go running on the back of the wind.
Oh.
There's gotta be some action on the face of the earth, and I gotta see your face once again.
Dun, 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 dun.
And I don't know where I ever got the bright idea that I was cool, so alone and independent, but I'm depending on you now. Oh God, it's so good. And my favorite, the song is called "Nowhere Fast." I don't even know if you mentioned that.
Going nowhere fast.
Me were going nowhere slowly, and we gotta get away from the past. There's nothing wrong with going nowhere, baby, but we should be going nowhere fast.
But we should be going nowhere fast.
And my favorite little tweak on the lyrics. Everybody's going nowhere slowly. They're only fighting for the chance to be last.
There's nothing wrong with going nowhere slowly, but we should be going nowhere fast.
And everyone else is just fighting for the chance to be last. And then there's a tremendous breakdown at the end. Godspeed, 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 speed us away.
My God,
a lot of me singing during this episode.
That's
so
okay.
Beware.
That's okay. My God,
But the cinematography for this movie is fantastic, especially the concerts, and this part of the power of this is not just the song, but like the editing.
Yeah.
The action by Diane Lane as Ellen Aim and her backup band.
Mm-hmm. This is apparently a role that Diane Lane did not take lightly. Diane Lane gave a shit about this performance, and when she found out that there was a part up for her, you're supposed to be playing a rock god, she was like, I want to do that.
Yeah.
And I want to do nothing but that. She showed up, she tried real hard for the audition, she came in character, in costume already, and she sells it. I love her. She's not doing her own singing in the scene, by the way.
No one does.
But she is and she's clearly not a dancer or anything, but she's absolutely just fucking getting
she would
into
win
it.
a lip sync battle.
Yes, no, absolutely.
Towards the middle, we see that a biker gang is approaching in shadows.
This is the most chilling villain entrance of any movie. Like Darth Vader coming through the smoke
in the blockade runner
in the beginning of StarArs and the Tantive 4. This is the bikers roll up. They come
see them coming on the street
in complete shadow. You only
They're
see
backlit.
Vague outlines of them. But as the song is slowly coming to a close, the lights very slowly come up on the most pasty pale Willem Dafoe has ever been.
And so young. Such a young man.
All the lines you're used to seeing in Willem Dafoe's face are all smoothed out.
Yes.
It's a terrifying, smooth
and
Willem Dafoe.
He has a hairdo that's it's like out of a fucking anime.
Yeah.
It's not spiky, it's just an anime interpretation of a greaser.
Yeah, it's David Tennant's hairstyle from that one episode of Doctor Who where he was in the 50s, the one with the TV stealing people's faces. He's just the rare, smooth, pale greaser Willem Dafoe coming out of the shadows with just this intense, hungry look on his face. And even though the song is exalting you towards heaven, he comes from the depths of hell.
But it's so perfect because it's talking about getting out there, going fast, even if you're going nowhere. And here's the fucking motorcycles, and here's the bad boy,
here's the devil,
and as the song is
Satan.
As the song is closing out,
Willem
Dafoe playing the wonderfully named character Raven Shaddix.
Raven Shaddix.
Oh my god!
Speaking of anime shit, that's someone that Yu-Gi-Oh would play cards against.
Speaking of the greatest porn name never used. I mean, Raven Shaddix is the perfect name for anything. What if you were going to meet a man named Raven Shaddix? On what circumstances would you not want to meet him? Like if you were a professional of some sort.
If I was a professional of some sort and I wouldn't want to meet Raven... I wouldn't
No,
wanna...
if he were a professional, like what profession could he possibly... Aside from gang leader.
Right, yeah. Raven Shaddix, the richest man in the world. Raven Shaddix...
A helicopter pilot.
Raven Shaddix...
private detective.
The most powerful stuntman in the world.
Hell yeah.
He can be set on fire without needing a suit for it.
I mean, I go to a watch repairman named Raven Shaddix.
Raven Shaddix seems too big for normal professions. He should be a crime fighter.
I mean, that's why he's a gang boss. That's why he's a gang leader.
Raven Shaddix, duel master. The only man that Maximilian Pegasus has ever feared. Raven Shaddix. Raven Shaddix.
No, it's a perfect comic book name.
Dr. Doom's mentor, Raven Shaddix.
Exactly. But as the song is winding down...
But before we get to that, there's a couple more things about this scene, because again, this song is so powerful that we see that it actually makes Rick Moranis' character smile. It's so powerful it makes his heart grow 3 sizes.
I figured it was sort of thing where he's like, Rick Moranis and Ellen Aim are an item.
As we find out later, yes.
They're boyfriend and girlfriend.
Yeah, Rick Moranis' character's name is Billy Fish.
Billy Fish.
And I kept wanting to call him Billy the Fish. Oh. But he's just Billy Fish, sadly.
Again, these names are perfect.
Yes.
Even in their simplicity. Billy Fish, Ellen Aim. Like, wonderful names. I figured Billy Fish was smiling because he's like, there's a woman I love. Mm-hmm. She's performing like a goddess.
I think that's part of it, but I think that there is something about, like, her talent. She is so genuinely the goddess of rock and roll in this universe that there is something about that just, like, magically takes all of the bullshit artifice that makes people negative away from them and turns them into the best versions of themselves. And the only time in this movie where we see Billy Fish acting nice towards anyone is the end, which is the next time that we see her perform in the universe of this movie. But the song, as you mentioned, the filmmaking on display in this scene is fucking incredible, which is funny because Walter Hill said that he didn't know what he was doing when filming the scenes.
Really?
Because he'd never filmed musical numbers before. And that later on, he asked someone who had been in the business in the 30s making musicals, how did you guys do that? Because I had so much of a hard time the one time I did it. And they said, well, we rehearsed a lot. And he's like, that's right, we didn't do that. We got the songs like an hour before we shot, and then we figured it out as we went.
That's nuts.
Which is insane,
fantastic.
It looks so good!
But that speaks to what a great filmmaker Walter Hill is.
Yeah, and a song, Going Nowhere Fast, is performed by Ellen Aim and the Attackers in universe. And in real life, it's performed by Ellen Aim's voice is a combination of 2 singers, Laurie Sargent and Holly Sherwood. They went back and forth taking lead on these songs, but they also, even on songs where one of them is more the singer than the other one, their voices are still somewhat combined. Gotcha. Where they decided that they liked the performances of one better than the other on certain bits, and they edited them together.
That's why it's so powerful.
And also fused...
2 ladies.
It's a song that's literally so... The soundtrack of the movie is literally so powerful that not one human being could do it as flawlessly as they did it. They used computers to do it. And
just like Tron.
Together, whenever they did a song in this, you can tell it's them together because on the soundtrack it'll be credited to Fire Inc. Incorporated, which is the name that they gave the robot fusion of these 2 singers. The band behind her, both on screen and on the track, is a punk band called Face to Face,
and they do fantastic.
And Diane Lane is great. Holy shit!
They have the stage presence.
These performers are giving it their fucking all. Their dress is Buddy Holly, and they are giving it rock star 100%. And I love them with all of my heart.
All right, is that everything?
That's everything that I wanted to talk about with that scene. But yes, the song ends, and Dafoe yells, "Go!" and his men rush the stage, beat up the band and Rick Moranis, and take Ellen hostage.
Willem Dafoe straight up Donkey Kongs this woman. And I want Willem Dafoe to play Donkey Kong now.
My God.
And I don't want him to voice Donkey Kong.
No, you want him to be capture.
No. I want him to be in a gorilla suit.
Oh!
With like the face cut out, so it's Willem Dafoe's face. Or at least his eyes, and then you have the monkey mouth. No, I want him to be in like a suit. He's like, Mario! I'm gonna throw a barrel at you.
Robert Pattinson went on record as saying that Willem Dafoe has more energy than any other actor he's ever worked with, so I think that Willem Dafoe would be down.
I'm sure he would.
Willem Dafoe seems to be down for pretty much anything.
Seems like it.
Yeah.
I'm sure he has a quote. But that quote doesn't seem too high, because they got him for the first John Wick.
They got him for the first John Wick for a fairly small role. They got him for fucking that vampire movie with Ethan Hawke that I forget the name of right now, but is hokey fun. He's barely in that one, and he plays an Elvis-obsessed vampire hunter.
Okay.
It's the best part of the movie, aside from Sam Neill being Sam Neill, because he's also the best part of anything he's in.
Sure.
But yes, the biker gang...
Oh my god!
Sorry, go ahead. Daybreakers! Daybreakers is the name of that vampire movie, sorry.
This is a Donkey Kong movie, because Tom Cody is going to fight Willem Dafoe with a hammer at the end.
Oh my god! We just cracked the code, motherfuckers. We see you, Walter Hill. We see you, motherfucker. He wanted to direct that Bob Hoskins piece of shit, and instead he got stuck doing this.
Yeah, he wanted to direct Super Mario Brothers 10 years in the future.
Now I'm pissed off that the hammer fight at the end of this movie doesn't take place on top of a half-finished skyscraper.
Or like on a scaffold or something.
Just like, on a big, like a bunch of steel girders in the air, and they're like, oh my god, I'm almost falling off the entire time.
I just want Tom Cody to jump over one barrel.
Just one. They couldn't even give us that. This biker gang, they steal Ellen Aim.
Bombers.
The Bombers is what they're called. They steal Ellen Aim. They cause a huge riot. Everyone's freaking out,
punching people.
They're decking people.
They drag a man down the street with their motorcycles.
They go out into the public area, and they're just causing chaos. I think they even throw a couple of bombs, maybe. I don't quite remember.
They rip a lady's shirt open, kind of.
Yeah, kind of. But they do, again, like no real explicit nudity or explicit, like, horrifying.
We do get a little bit of nudity later.
Kind of remind me of, this is a very obscure reference, I guess, but it's what I kept thinking about through the whole movie. The biker gang from the pilot movie for the 90s Flash TV show is very similar vibes, where they're not doing anything that would actually gain them any profit. They just like going into places and wrecking shit.
Yeah.
Because they're not a real biker gang. They're not a real mob. They are the Butch...
They're just toughs.
They're the Butch Cavendish gang. They're coming in and they're wrecking shit. They're wrecking the settlement. And this is not a real cityscape. This is a little old west town out on the frontier somewhere, and everyone in town, in this little area of town, knows each other. It's a very tight-knit community, like it would be in an old west town or a small medieval settlement out there. Again, this doesn't take place in Chicago. This takes place in a fantasy world. It operates on Western logic. Hill said in an interview, "Every film I've ever done has been a Western. The Western is ultimately a stripped-down moral universe that is whatever the dramatic problems are, beyond the normal avenues of the social control and social alleviation of the problem. And I like to do that even within contemporary stories." A young lady who was at the concert, who we met earlier, Reva Cody, she knows that she's in the Western universe, and she knows when there's one riot, you need one ranger, and so she sends out a message typewriter for the man with no name of this universe, whose name is Tom Cody, because, as always, the man with no name definitely has a name in every one of those movies. But she calls out she literally writes a letter. Again, this is a Western. She writes a letter and sends it off. And granted,
it was 1984. There were only so many things she could do.
Sure,
she could call him.
But no, this is a Western. She writes a letter, and probably, we don't see this, but probably sent it over the teletype. To the telegram, and he comes in on the night train from Santa Fe or whatever the fuck, and comes in and we're going to get into Tom Cody in a second. I do want to say, before we get to him, his costume is iconic. It's okay.
Yes, like I said, he looks like he's from the fucking Depression.
Yeah, no, he looks like speaking of hammers, he looks like he was working right next to John Henry on the fucking railroad.
Sure.
He's got this big old trench coat, and he's got the shirt with like the cut off sleeves, except when they're not, and the overalls,
and like the old fashioned suspenders where it's like two button clips.
Yes, yeah,
and
two button clips and like a loose cord.
He looks like he should be in a movie about like unionizing the mines. Like
Exactly.
He's the first person the Pinkertons killed a strike break.
Right, like that, or maybe he's gonna be yelling outside a window, yelling Stella or something like that.
Sure.
Like, he's definitely that sort of vibe. But
He looks like he would fit perfectly into the Firefly universe.
Oh, 100%. This movie, this character, you can tell that the costume designer was given the thing, hey, here's a picture of John Wayne in the movie, here's a picture of Clint Eastwood in the Man with No Name trilogy. I need you to capture this vibe, but it needs to be
different.
West Coast America during the East Coast America during the last 100 years or so. That's the kind of, but more towards the 50s or 20s. That's the vibe. And then they immediately understood the assignment and completely captured that. And I just want to say that immediately because Tom Cody sucks.
Tom Cody does suck, and Michael Paré sucks.
Yeah. Tom Cody, as a character, does indeed suck on his own. He wouldn't suck as hard if he was played by anybody else.
Yes. Michael Paré has the look. He has the look 100%.
He looks
aside
a lot
from
like...
his weird patchy beard.
Yeah, aside from the weird... He looks like Casper Van Dien with a patchy beard.
Sure.
Who's like on some sort of like... He just went to the dentist and he's still like asleep.
He sounds like a drunk Sylvester Stallone.
God, yes. Yeah. And I think I know what happened, because there's a lot in this movie that feels very John Wayne. Like, this is not referencing the 70s Western. This is very much referencing classic Westerns. And I think that when they met with this... Now, their first choice was Tom Cruise.
Yes.
I am not a big Tom Cruise fan.
I'm not either. I would have been interested to see him in this role.
Sure, he would have been better than Michael Paré, I think. But, like, I'm not...
He would have had more charisma.
Yeah, I'm just not a fan of Tom Cruise's acting.
No, generally not.
Which is why I'm a fan of the Mission Impossible movies, because he doesn't do much other than, like, the physical stunt work in those films.
Aside from his stiff running.
Aside from his stiff running and the stunt work, which he's good at. But they were looking at other actors because Tom Cruise was off doing some other movie. And they were like, okay. And Michael Paré comes in and he has this very slow, monotone, deep voice delivery.
Which works.
And I think they were looking at that. Sometimes. And I think they were looking at that and they were like, hey, this is kind of giving me that sort of John Wayne kind of thing. Because he also talked really slow, had a deep voice, kind of a monotone delivery. And John Wayne is not a great actor. Was not a great actor. Not a great human being. But we're not going to quote Repo Man here.
Yeah, no. You read my mind.
I know. Every time John Wayne comes up, I know what's going on.
Although, whether or not that was true, that is not why John Wayne is
not at all. No. He was bad for other reasons. Look up the clip he had about race relations in America.
Look at the time when he wanted to beat the shit out of a Native American woman.
Yes,
on stage at the Oscars.
On live TV.
But no, Michael Paré is trash.
Michael Paré sucks, but John Wayne did have, one, some of the greatest directors in history telling him what to do, and two, some kind of charisma on screen, and Michael Paré just doesn't.
No, he's a dud. He's the dud of the film.
He is so bad. I will say again, watching this the second time through for this show, he didn't bother me as much as the first time I watched it.
Although this was my third watch.
Yes.
And like now I'm just... Because I expect it. I expect him to be a dud, and I'm more accepting of it.
Once you decide that you like a movie, it's much easier to...
sort of sand off those rough edges.
Sand off the rough edges. When you're still trying to decide whether you like a movie or not, anything's going to come up as like a legit thing that you need to pay attention to in terms of like, hey, what's a point against, what's a point for? I usually don't like belittling actors, but then I read a lot of stuff from Michael Paré's interviews where he comes off as a real fucking tool, so I don't feel as bad about it anymore.
Yeah.
Before we move on from Tom Cody, while I was watching it, I was writing down a list of actors who would have been available at the time that I thought could have played the part better. My A-tier pick for the part is, I think, obviously Kurt Russell.
Yes.
He was born to play parts like this.
Yeah.
But the two other people that I came up with were Emilio Estevez from Repo Man.
Okay.
Who clearly was too busy doing Repo Man around this time. Repo Man, I'm sorry. And the other one was Patrick Swayze. And lo and behold, who did audition for this movie
The Sways.
is Patrick Swayze, and from what I was able to glean, they just didn't accept his audition, and that is fucking foolish.
Well, Joel Silver would make up for that when he produced Roadhouse.
There you go. He must have remembered him and was like, hey, the biggest mistake I ever made, let's correct it right now.
I also want to point out that aside from the fantastic songs in this movie, the score is written by Ry Cooder, frequent Walter Hill collaborator, very famous blues musician, famous for that slide guitar.
Oh, nice.
I believe.
Love a good slide guitar. There is a lot of guitar in this. It's very sort of that sort of like
Very
Western strumming.
Western bluesy.
Yeah, very good. Very good at setting the tone. Apparently we're not the only ones who are disappointed in Michael Pare. There's
The producers did not like him either.
Larry Gross, the co-writer of the movie, hated Michael Pare and takes every opportunity to blame the failings of the movie on Michael Pare solely.
He's a convenient scapegoat.
He is a convenient scapegoat. I don't think he's the only reason this movie
I
didn't
blame
do
him
well.
for 9/11.
But this is a direct quote. There was a chance of something great, but early fundamental disappointment with key personnel, and then in parentheses, because this is from a book he wrote, in that case, the star Michael Pare, steeled all of us to face the chance that it might not turn out that way.
It must, like, if someone I knew wrote a book, and I had worked with them in some capacity,
Sure.
I would probably read that book and be like, I wonder if they say anything about me. Then it's like, oh.
And then, just as I was saying this and like thinking about this,
We get Michael Pare's only really good scene.
well, in a second, but first, right before that scene happens, a credit comes up that reminded me that Bill Paxton was in the movie, and I was like, fucking Bill Paxton was right there, you motherfuckers. Bill Paxton's part in this movie is great, and I wouldn't want it played by anybody else.
He's in like 3 scenes.
But he's only in 3 scenes, and it's Bill fucking Paxton. Like, come on.
And he has a dead tooth.
Tom meets up with Riva in the diner that she works at.
Like I said, this is probably Michael Pare's strongest scene.
I would agree with that.
And probably the best... Like, the best brawl scene.
The best brawl scene in the movie. There is an action scene that happens about midway that's my favorite.
Okay.
But but in terms of a brawl, I agree with you. This is quite a good scene.
Some toughs. Some toughs come into the diner.
It's a different gang, not the
Bombers.
It's the Roadmasters.
Oh.
And they come in, and Riva is completely unimpressed because Riva's the coolest person on the motherfucking planet.
And she lives in Shit Town.
In Shit Town, right next to Shitburg. But yeah, she tells them, the Bombers have brought this act already. All you're doing in here is looking like punks. And
they start to mess up the joint.
They're going to mess up the joint.
To rape Riva.
Yeah, and Tom Cody comes over looking bored as hell. And
he does do that well.
Yeah.
He does have a little bit of that swagger.
Mainly because he has one face that he makes the entire time. But it does... In this scene, at least, it looks like he has swagger. He takes the jacket off, revealing those cut-off sleeves, and then he just, like...
slaps a man.
Just slaps the shit out of this guy.
And then he keeps slapping him. He literally slaps him into submission. And I fucking love it. It's a great introduction to the character. And then he more traditionally fights the rest of the gang.
He picks up a hat stand and just starts beating them like a baseball bat. He chucks a guy through a window. It's great. It's a nice little barroom brawl in a diner. Tom takes Riva out of the diner and shows off his hot rod, which Riva tells him he needs to sell to pay for her window that he just broke.
Isn't that the car that the Roadmasters drove up in? He's like, this is my car now?
Oh, I didn't catch that. I think you're right.
I'm pretty sure that's...
I think you're right, because he does say that he stole the car. I just didn't pick up that he stole it from them.
Yeah.
And he did arrive on a train, so why would he have a hot rod outside the diner?
No, it was on a carrier car.
It was on. Oh, okay, sure. No, but yeah, he steals his car from the Roadmasters because he's the only master of the road in this movie.
Hell yeah!
And Riva, as they're driving away, Riva fills him in on the recent kidnapping of Ellen. Car's pulled over by the only 2 cops in the city.
Yes, it's a John Wickiverse.
It's a John Wickiverse, or again, a western town where you always have just like one sheriff and one deputy. That's the vibe.
And we have the classic 80s casting of one white man and one black man.
One white man, one black man.
And I'm glad we have this black fella here, because we will not see another black person until quite late in the movie.
For a while. The black guy, I forget the actor's name, but he's the one of the main cast members from the V miniseries from the 80s. And the white guy is the sex-obsessed boyfriend of Sarah Connor's roommate in the first Terminator movie.
Okay.
Is what I know him from. And it appears to be his other biggest role.
I don't know why, but I assumed you were going to say he was also multiple Migs in Silence of the Lambs, and I got really excited.
Multiple Migs comes up so often.
Multiple
in the show.
Migs is the MVP of that film. He throws cum at a person. He kills himself.
Yeah. I mean,
fucking, it's a rock star story.
Absolutely, it's a rock star story. Multiple Migs, a rock and roll fable.
we should do Multiple Migs the musical.
Oh my god, Multiple Migs going nowhere fast.
I throw my cum at you, and you, and you.
Oh my god.
And now it's there, and there, and there.
I can smell your cunt from here. But yes, the sheriff and his bumbling deputy, they warn Tom, because they know Tom. He's from around here.
Everyone's from around here.
Everyone's from around here. Where else would you be? And they warn him that they don't want any trouble out of him. Keep your nose clean, Tom.
Even though, like, they're doing nothing about Raven Shaddix.
Yeah, they're doing nothing about him. Well, he's out of... This movie, again, kind of like what I've heard about the Warriors... They're not really in towns, they're in districts.
Okay.
They're in sort of like these little fiefdoms, these little areas that are these very small, close-knit areas. They're precincts that are considered like one settlement, then there's another settlement, and there's another settlement. The bombers are from a completely different settlement, which I've written the name down of later.
Okay.
And so they're... Probably the minute they took Ellen out of their little fiefdom, they couldn't go after them.
I also feel it's more probably a riff on the idea of like, oh, even the cops don't go there.
Oh yeah. There's also that. This movie is definitely definitely at heart a Western. There is also an element of like the teen 1950s rebel teen movie. Like, what's that one? There's you could definitely catch vibes of Rebel Without a Cause.
The Wild One?
Or the Wild One, The Blob. There's definitely elements of that, and this scene with the cops is definitely one of the strongest moments of that. Yeah. It does feel like, hey, they're pulling James Dean over again. They're pulling the main characters from The Blob over and being like, hey, no more road racing backwards.
Yeah, I get oh my god, Tom Cody's here.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I get pulled over by cops quite a bit.
Oh my god.
I'm swerving around a lot.
Oh my god.
I think it's just because they know that Michael Paré's in town and I'm a badass and I'm gonna throw some punks through some windows. God.
Michael Paré, how did you get into my house?
I'm Tom Cody.
Oh, I'm sorry. You just said Michael Paré was in town.
Oh, I'm sorry. Did I?
You did.
Shit. Sorry. Wipe all that.
Wipe all of it.
I'm so sorry.
That's okay. I was laughing. I like the idea that Michael Paré prefers to think of himself as Tom Cody because it's just a better reality.
I might try to bring Tom Cody back in later because I like doing that voice.
It's a fun
impression.
It's a fun voice. I like that voice. But yeah, Riva sets Tom up at her place. We get some exposition. I like that Tom is very sex positive about his sister having sort of relationships with folks. He's sort of like, I'm not going to be getting in the way of you with some guy, am I?
Yeah, I don't like the smell of cum, so if you're fucking, like, just let me know. I'll put a clothespin on my snout.
And she's like, no, I haven't had anybody steady for a while. And he's like, same here.
Well, because he's been in the army.
Right, yeah. But it turns out Tom and Ellen used to date, and Rivas thinks that they should have stayed together, but they didn't work out. And now Ellen's been dating her manager, Billy Fish. And Tom says that they didn't work out because she was always more interested in going somewhere.
Yeah, she was interested in her career.
Yes.
And not Tom Cody.
Right.
Roustabout.
Which... It turns out later she was very interested in Tom Cody. She just wanted him to be okay with her also prioritizing her career.
Yeah, it was very much of like, hey, I'm going. Come along with me, friend.
Right, and Tom Cody is an asshole, so he didn't want to go along with that.
Do you think Walter Hill understands that, like, Tom Cody was super wrong in this situation?
No, I don't think he does. I think that, again...
You think this was a much more complex situation in his mind?
I don't know Walter Hill in real life, so I can only speak to what I have... The vibes I pick up in interviews and the vibes I pick up from this movie itself. So I take everything I'm about to say with a grain of salt. I get the sense that Walter Hill is a deeply sexist person. And
I believe it. And like in the Wikipedia article that we both read,
yes,
it's like one of the producers was like, people think Walter has this problem with women, and he was like, I want to prove him wrong with this one.
Right.
And it's like,
no, if
did
anything,
you with your Princess Peach character?
If anything, this movie is more of a thesis statement about why he hates women. And I think
his misunderstanding was like, oh, my movies don't have enough women.
Right.
If I put women more in the center, but still keep doing my shit.
Yeah, no, this movie feels very much like scripts that another famous woman-hating creative, Gene Roddenberry, would write. Stories in Star Trek that he would write that were stories that he was trying to prove, hey, I like women, women are great.
Yeah.
And they always came off as super misogynistic.
Yeah.
Because Gene Roddenberry was pathological in his hatred of ladies. And I get very similar vibes from this. So he had gotten kind of a reputation as a woman hater, and then he was making this movie, and certain things happened we'll talk about later that ended up with it having more women than normal, and I think that he thought, hey, this will prove it, when really, as we go forward, if you're in a relationship with someone and their career is taking off, and you don't think that the way that your life works and the way that their life works are going to be copacetic, and you think that because of that, the relationship won't work, that is valid. That's completely valid. But in this situation, the relationship was ended by her because she got that idea and she left. In this movie, spoiling it right now, eventually they get back together, and then Cody breaks up with her for the exact same reason, and it's treated like a good thing. The only problem with their relationship that made Tom Cody so mad is that she made a decision. Reason why Tom Cody's mad, and the reason why Walter Hill thinks that he's right to be mad, is because a woman made a decision about what she was going to do with her own life that didn't involve him. And that is the real problem with Tom Cody.
Gotcha.
Once he's making the exact same decision she made, it's the right thing to do.
Obviously,
and it was always the right thing to do.
He's the drifter.
Yeah. He's the man, so he gets to make those choices. But yes, and also I do like that throughout this movie we get many verbal callbacks to going nowhere fast. Like, she's always wanted to go somewhere, and that's why they didn't work out. Tom heads into a saloon and meets up with an old school chum of his, Clyde, played by Bill Paxton. The nerdiest Bill Paxton has ever looked.
And the highest his hair's ever been.
The highest his hair has ever been.
He's got a pompadour.
He's got the only pompadour wilder than Willem Dafoe's in this movie. Yeah. And he's got like a blanked out tooth, as you said. Yeah. And he and Tom Cody used to get up to some shenanigans in school. And now he's playing full-on Aliens Bill Paxton asshole performance as he sort of razzes a bar patron who's this young lady. McCoy. Tom orders a tequila from Bill Paxton, and we meet McCoy, who I says the real hero of this movie.
Absolutely best character.
Played by Amy Madigan, who's a tough-as-nails coded lesbian. The character was originally written as a man whose name was, I believe, like Santos or something like that.
The wrestler.
Maybe. And she came in ostensibly to audition for the sister part, and instead gave a big argument for why the Santo character could be a woman, and that she should play it. And I think at that point, this is the thing said that we'd talk about later. Walter Hill said, that would prove I don't hate women, and immediately jumped on that. And she becomes the greatest character in the movie.
I can see that.
Yeah.
But I also...
And then also rewrote the dialogue for the character to make explicit reference to the fact that even though there's... Explicit reference to the fact that the main character and this character are not going to have sex in the movie. Yeah.
Okay, that was explicit.
Yes. No, not explicit reference to her being gay. They're sort of...
she calls herself a soldier.
There are subtle... which she was actually in the military, but also it's used as a euphemism. It's code. And also there is a scene, again, which probably was not probably was not in the script when the character was a man, where he says to her, she asks him for a place to stay. You got a bed somewhere? And he says, oh, you looking for a quick tumble? And she says, I don't want to. I wrote it down because I love the way she talks.
We'll get there.
Okay, we'll talk about it later. But yeah, there's no explicit reference to her being gay. That's just a vibe.
But let's give Walter Hill some credit.
Okay.
Even if it was, like, I'm sure it partly was like, yeah, let's make it a woman. Let's get more women in the movie. Mm-hmm. He still agreed to it. He was like, he allowed it.
He listened to this young actress coming in and talking to him, this established filmmaker, and was like, yeah, okay, that sounds great.
Yeah, he rolled with it. And that's a lot.
It's the best, and you're right. That is a lot, and
especially for the time and for the man.
And I wish she was the main character of the movie, but I will take any amount of McCoy that I can get.
Absolutely.
In my life. She gets into an argument with Clyde, and Clyde tells her, I don't like your face, get out of my bar. And she turns to Tom and says, everywhere I go, there's always an asshole. And then takes Clyde the fuck out.
She knocks him out, hops behind the bar, asks Tom what he's drinking, grabs a bottle of tequila, they hit the road.
And then orders Tom out of the bar. Come on with me. They get out of that saloon. What a great introduction to this character.
It's wonderful. And you said, the best character in the movie, Amy Madigan, does fantastic.
I love it. She's got this very sort of stoic, grumpy face locked on the entire movie, and it's so good.
She is a woman that a man would tell to smile more.
Yes, absolutely. She gives me the same vibes as the drummer from Scott Pilgrim versus the World.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's sort of like, we are Sex Bomb and we're here to sell out and shit. Like that sort of vibe. But yeah.
Make you think about death and stuff.
Turns out McCoy and Tom are both veterans of a recent war.
Are they veterans of a war, or were they just in the army?
They were. She says that she's here because she ran out of wars to fight. And he says
she could be like Trax and be a soldier of fortune.
That's true. And he says that he was in the military and liked the guns but didn't win any medals.
Yeah. Which makes me think that Tom Cody, if there was a war, committed hella war crimes.
Oh, hella war crimes.
Him and Tom Savini, back to back, just slaughtering civilians.
Just slaughtering civilians, left, right, and center. Oh, man.
I don't know when the Falklands was, but now I'm imagining Tom Savini and the character Tom Cody just butchering.
I fully believe Tom Cody is real. Tom Cody is a real person in my heart.
The Falklands was 1982.
Okay.
So Tom Savini, tired of the makeup game, missing the shit, teamed up with Tom Cody, went to this Argentinian island, and just started slaughtering people, not even for America, in the name of the British government.
In the name of the British government. Michael Paré lived as Tom Cody for a full 3 years before this movie came out to prepare for the role. It was during this time.
This is Tom Cody here. I just wandered into your house. Hope you don't mind.
Yeah, that's fine.
Are you guys talking about my movie Streets of Fire?
Yeah, absolutely.
You're talking about my war career?
I guess it did come up, yes.
Yeah, no, I fought in a lot of wars. I fought in a lot of wars, killed a lot of people. Uh-huh. Sometimes they weren't even like... I don't even really know what a war is. Like, what is a war? Like, if I kill a man in a bar, is that a war?
You're asking some heavy philosophical questions here, Tom.
So let's say I drown a man in a urinal. Is that a war?
Where's the urinal and who told you to kill this man?
It was in Korea.
Okay.
Where we had a war.
We did have famously we had a war in Korea, yes.
But it was in 1980.
I don't think we were having the Korean War at that point.
Well, no, but was that a new Korean War?
Not that anyone's informed me about.
Well,
I'm beginning to think that
there's a lot you don't know.
I'm beginning to think that Rambo 2 was just based on your life.
Maybe. I haven't seen it. I don't have a lot of time for movies.
Right, yeah. Too busy killing people in urinals.
Yeah. And just driving cool cars.
Yeah.
Hanging out with my lesbian buddy McCoy.
Yeah, right. Okay.
It took me a while to realize she was a lesbian.
Yeah.
10 years!
She's not exactly subtle about it, dude.
All right, Sherlock Holmes. You're cool.
Well, see if anyone else thinks that this should have been obvious. In the scene, McCoy asks Tom if he's got a spare bed, and Tom asks McCoy if she wants a quick tumble. She responds with, you may have a rough time with this one, and I don't want to hurt your feelings, but you're not my type. Which, my God.
It's great. It's great. And
I just realized reading that line, trying to approximate her voice, this is a Natasha Lyonne character.
Yeah, it's very much so. But, like, kudos, 1984, for even this little bit of representation.
Just this tiny bit.
I don't want to assume Walter Hill's opinion on people in the community, but I'm sure they're not the best.
He did make The Assignment.
Again, he was like 72. He probably didn't even he probably doesn't even remember making that movie. He was probably fucking in an iron lung. And they're like, hey, Walter, we need another movie from you. The genius behind 48 Hours.
You're short.
Like,
I imagine everyone in the iron lung sounds like Darth Vader.
Yeah, no, that's what it does to you.
That's what it does to you, yeah.
Even though your head is exposed.
Right.
It's just the compression on your lungs.
It pumps your lungs full of that chemical that makes your voice sound deep.
McCoy shacks up with Reva and Tom. And then they
and Tom has another great thing here where he takes it very well. He doesn't question it.
He does. He's a bro about it.
He takes it as well. He's like, it figures I haven't had much luck with women lately. Maybe some other time, huh? And McCoy says, completely deadpan, I doubt it, but anything's possible.
I feel like she's had this conversation with many men.
Yeah, it's like in a universe of infinite possibilities, maybe, but not in this lifetime.
Oh, everything, everywhere, all at McCoy.
I love McCoy so goddamn much.
She's the best character.
But yeah, Tom volunteers.
I'd say it goes her, Billy Fish, Raven Shaddix.
Raven Shaddix is up there. I don't know.
Her, Raven Shaddix, then Billy Fish.
I'm more on board with that list. And then, like, Reva, like, maybe just below the three of them.
Love me some Reva.
Reva is, my God.
And then Ed Begley Jr.'s character.
Ed Begley Jr. is in a different movie.
Yeah. We'll get there.
Tom, Tom volunteers his sister's couch to McCoy, and we see that however much he may protest, Tom is not over Ellen. As he gets ready for bed, he's taking his shirt off.
I'm still not over Ellen. I have a picture.
Yeah.
You want to know what I do to that picture?
Not the way that you said that question, I don't.
Are you sure? If you pay me $10, I'll tell you.
Well, now I definitely don't want to.
You want to hear the details?
Do you fucking know how much gas is right now? I'm not giving you $10 to tell me what you do to your picture, pervert.
I feel like you're insulting me, but I'm not sure. And you know me, I'm a man of peace.
Right, yes.
So I don't want to assume
right.
and make an asshole out of you.
Right, yes.
And then I have to punch you.
Yes. Yes, I know that you're not famously a man with very thick skin, as I will get into later. But
you have thick skin. What, do you have psoriasis?
Thank you, I guess. Tom, I worry about you a little bit. We've barely talked.
I worry about you.
Okay.
You look like a diabetic.
I don't know what that means, Tom. I don't know what that means.
All right, we'll just talk about my magnum opus.
Okay.
Streets of Fire.
Streets of Fire. I will gladly talk about that, Tom. We see, as I said, we see that Tom isn't as over Helen as he claimed, and still has her picture in his wallet, which leads into a flashback. I assume it's a flashback anyway, of another song, Never Be You, written by the late great now, Tom Petty.
Mm-hmm.
The flashback inspires Tom to get busy planning to rescue Ellen. And
it inspired me to get busy. $10, I'll tell you what I mean.
Thank you. No, thank you, Tom. Thank you. No, thank you. He meets up with a mechanic named Pete, who is essentially, I guess, John Leguizamo's character from John Wick.
Yeah.
We both had the same thought.
Yeah.
Where he just supplies him with a shit ton of, as he points out, custom weapons. We'll find out later, although this is not explicitly stated, that apparently custom weapons means that they shoot. All of them don't shoot bullets, they all shoot grenades.
Yeah.
I wrote down this movie, as what I've already said, but the movie is a perfect fusion of a Western and a 50s troubled youth movie, and I love it so much. Tom meets up with Billy Fish.
Yes.
And says that he's going to go get Helen, and he wants 10 grand.
Ellen.
Sorry, yes, I keep making that mistake. He's going to go rescue Ellen, and he wants 10 grand.
That's reasonable.
Sure, why not?
That's you know, when the first Donkey Kong arcade machines came out,
Right.
you had to insert 10 grand in order to get Mario to go up that fucking scaffold.
Still in quarters, so you had to have it was
my
like those
God.
photos of the poor Germans right before World War II, just wheelbarrows of quarters taking over to the arcade, and you just had to keep putting them in.
And you still only got 3 lives.
It took 2 hours to play one game of Donkey Kong.
Yeah.
But yeah, Billy Fish is so rich and so out of touch with the rest of people that 10 grand doesn't even make him bat an eye. He says 10 grand and he doesn't even blink. He's like, easy.
Yeah.
He says that's easy.
But it should be.
You need to. But he says I'm not gonna pay if I don't see results. However, sorry, what were you about to say?
We also learned that Billy Fish is also a local.
Yes, he is. He came from the town, not this area, but the area that the bombers are native to. This horrifying hellscape that the bombers rule with an iron fist.
And he calls it the shits.
Yes, he said
that place is the shits.
It's called the Battery. This is where I wrote down the area is called the Battery. So Tom knows that Billy's from there, and he says he needs a guide. Billy says, "You couldn't pay me to go back there. It's the shits."
And he only says it twice.
Yes.
But this is basically Billy's catchphrase.
It is
I
basically
love it.
his catchphrase,
I
yes.
love it. And Rick Moranis gets to be an asshole, and it's wonderful.
I don't remember what we were talking about in a recent podcast where I was talking about... Oh, it was Buckaroo Banzai.
Okay.
When we talked about Buckaroo Banzai, we said that our favorite actor in that movie, what's his name?
John Lithgow.
Jonathan Lithgow has this Shakespearean ability to take the very odd language that's used in that movie and deliver it like it is poetry.
Yes.
And he does it in a way that none of the other great actors in that movie seem to manage to be able to capture. That's how I feel about Rick Moranis in this movie.
I agree with you.
The dialogue in this movie is similar to Buckaroo Banzai, very arch. It's not written from a place of this is how people talk. It's written from a place of...
This is written how, like, an Archie character talks.
Like it's just a collection of cliches.
That's the best description of this movie. It's like R-rated Archie.
Yes, that is a great way to... And not like Riverdale, like good R-rated Archie.
If Archie had a gun.
If Archie were in the universe of Warriors, that's what this movie is. But yeah, so the dialogue is all like he and Rick Moranis are going back and forth with this patter kind of talk, and Reva's like, I can see you two aren't gonna get along. Like everything's spoken in trailer lines, and Rick Moranis and Michael Paré says this stuff, and it sounds like a bunch of bullshit.
Yeah, it's
Michael Paré
fucking falls on the floor.
It falls on the floor. Rick Moranis makes this sing
because
again,
he's a fucking comedian,
like Pete Postlethwaite speaking Shakespeare. Yeah. It's poetry.
Like he's a comedian. He's an improv. I think he's an improv guy.
He's
a sketch dude.
His most famous character, the Strange Brew characters, were created just because on the sketch comedy show that he invented those characters for, he and his partner invented those characters for, they were told they needed a certain amount of Canadian content.
Gotcha.
So every episode they would just improvise those characters for however long was left in the episode.
He gets a script.
Yeah.
Which did not arouse the best confidence in a lot of the people involved, including Jim Steinman, who wrote the two big songs.
Jim Steinman read the script, told them honestly, I don't think this is very good, and they said, don't worry, it's the visuals that are going to make the film, which as a fan of the movie, they're right. But also, like...
But Rick Moranis has the chops to be able to take this and sell it the way he needs to sell it.
Yeah.
Amy Madigan, as McCoy, is selling it in an entirely different way.
I would agree.
She's a part of the universe.
Yeah.
Billy Fish is almost like yeah, I understand what's going on, and it's fucking stupid.
Yes. Yeah, no, not that we're saying Rick Moranis is saying that.
No.
We're saying Billy Fish
Fish
saying that.
is above this two-fisted adventure.
He didn't even want to come to this town. This is charity work for him.
He doesn't want to go back to his fucking roots,
No.
this shit place.
He got out of there. He doesn't want to go back. That would be going nowhere fast, man.
But Billy Fish hires him.
And after some arm twisting, he agrees to go along and be the thing.
They cut McCoy in for
10%.
10%.
They cut McCoy in for 10%. Rick Moranis Billy Fish is immediately dismissive to McCoy. He says, "Why are we bringing some skirt along?" Which I love McCoy so much. It was one of those things like drawing in Aunt Emily's book, where I was
Lucy.
I made the same mistake. Aunt Lucy's book, where I just was like wanted to jump through the screen and strangle Billy Fish the minute he started being mean to McCoy.
I wish, and granted, McCoy does it again later.
But
I wish McCoy
can stand up for
motherfuckers
herself.
out more.
I do kind of wish that, but McCoy stands up for herself. She gives more than she gets. She gives as good as she gets to Billy later. But yeah, Billy says that if Ellen is anywhere, she will be in Torchies, a club in the middle of a factory, an abandoned factory in the Battery that has no class and is in fact the shits.
I wish he said it more. Again, he only says it twice, but
I want a TV show of Streets of Fire.
Oh, hell yeah.
Where Nowhere Fast is the theme song, and every episode you just have like this character at least once per episode. It's the shits.
Or not even... He shouldn't be like a regular, but he should be recurring.
Oh, yeah.
Like every so often, like he's managing a lot of acts. So like, oh, fuck,
because,
I gotta bring Tom Cody back in.
Right, because Tom Cody's a drifter. He's not going to be the same place every episode, but he'll keep running into them because they keep traveling around.
Yeah. And
the relationship with Ellen will go through highs and lows and everything. If that show had been made in the 80s, it would have sucked. But I can dream. I can dream.
We can dream about it. Da, da, da. So they go to the Battery.
Yes. Billy questions how they're supposed to take on a whole gang of thugs on motorcycles. Because if you start killing bombers, they're already going to be in worse... Again, incredible line delivery from Rick Moranis. If you start killing bombers, they're going to be in worse shape than we're already in. And in my favorite line delivery Michael Pare has in the whole movie, it's not good, but it's an incredible line. He says, I don't have to kill anybody. Motorcycles don't run so high once you shoot holes in them.
And again, let's before we move on, and we need to get moving.
Yes,
but I love it that this is fucking Rick Moranis, and he is constantly going toe to toe with Michael Pare. A very sort of, he has a bit of a himbo vibe going on.
Yes,
Granted, he has the patchy mustache, but he has the look, he has the swagger, and here's Billy Fish just giving him shit at every turn. And there's a little bit of jealousy we're going to see like between him and the Ellen Ames stuff.
Yeah.
But it's almost more narcissistic than anything.
It's definitely more narcissistic. And
Billy
we'll see later
definitely
on,
thinks he's on the same level as Tom Cody.
Absolutely.
And that's fucking great.
It's only like in the second half of the movie that any kind of insecurity creeps into Billy. Really, Billy just thinks that he is the most powerful man in the world, as we will see later on when he's involved in another situation with a strong person who's not Tom. I will say, in a bit of a disappointing turn, I found out that Michael Pare and Rick Moranis really did not get on well on the set.
Rick Moranis would just like roast Michael Pare.
It
was an actual like art imitating life shit
situation. But also, like, at first I was like, oh, it's not cool that Rick Moranis was bullying this young actor who hadn't really had a lot of work before. But I read more into it. That's not what was going on. This story is from Michael Pare, by the way. He's saying, in real life, you can just beat up people who make fun of you. I didn't understand.
He's saying in movies you can just do that.
No, he said in life. He said in life, if somebody was insulting you, but you can't do that to comedians. And then he said, and Rick Moranis was insulting me, and he's a guy who couldn't get laid in a whorehouse with a fistful of 50s, which immediately raised a red flag for me. And then he gave an example of one of the insults, which was Rick Moranis upon meeting him saying, "Are you really that cool, or do you just act cool?" Which just sounds like something I would say, or Brad would say. Which sounds to me like maybe Rick Moranis was just lightly joking around the whole time, And Michael Pare is so thin-skinned and unable to take a joke that he thought that, like, he in this quote, he calls Rick Moranis an insult comic, which is so, I don't know. It immediately was like, oh, I don't have to feel bad about Rick Moranis. I just don't think Michael Pare is very in touch with reality, but whatever. As they're driving along into the Battery, the scenery, again, in this movie is drop-dead gorgeous. Our heroes post up outside of Torchy's. Inside, a band, the only band that plays itself in the movie, the Blasters, is performing a song called One Bad Stud.
Not one of my favorites.
Oh, I like it.
It's fine. It's a good rockabilly song.
Yeah, no.
But at the same time, like, I don't know, I'm not a big fan of rockabilly, which is going to be a problem for the movie we cover next.
Oh, I can't wait. I actually quite like rockabilly, but the Blasters...
I like rockabilly too, but like, I don't know, after Nowhere Fast, I'm like, give me more Meatloaf shit.
Oh, fair enough. Yeah, understood.
But it does fit for the vibe of the scene.
For the vibe of the scene, yeah.
And you have a lady stripping naked.
Mm-hmm. She's apparently the body double from Flashdance. Is the one doing the stripper dance.
Cool.
Yeah. We said that McCoy is the real hero of the movie.
And a real human being.
And she is. But the star of the movie enters the scene now, which is Willem Dafoe's leather overalls.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. These are fucking amazing.
Fucking amazing.
I'm pretty sure I saw these in the trailer, and that's one of the things that sold me on it.
I remember us talking about them a lot before we watched the movie. They're kind of they kind of like, they remind me of Barbara Crampton's fetish wear from Beyond. It comes right up to the nipples, but doesn't quite cover them.
Yes, but the straps cover the nipples.
The straps cover the nipples,
and it's like this is all he's wearing, and it's like
in the scene, yeah. And
like I can't.
My God, it's so sexual.
And again, for a man who is not trying to make like a fetishy movie,
yeah,
somehow he landed on the most fetish fucking thing I've ever seen, where it's just a man in nipple high pleather overalls.
Absolutely, it's.
And he rocks them. He fucking rocks them.
Willem Dafoe's hot in this movie, man.
You're like Raven Shaddix.
Raven shag me.
Sure.
Raven Shaddix has been keeping Ellen tied to a bed, still wearing her dress from the concert for however many days it's been.
Exactly. Here's my question that I should have brought up earlier.
Yeah. How many days
Reva sends a fucking letter to Tom.
Yes.
So how long has this been going on? Like,
yeah,
it's
not made explicit how long it's been, what they've been doing to Ellen, if anything. But we see in this scene that Raven comes in and forces a kiss on her, and he says that he wants Ellen to be his willing lover for a couple of weeks.
Good on him.
And that if she gives in, he'll eventually let her go. So apparently they haven't done anything to her, and he's not going to do anything to her until he gets explicit consent.
Kidnapping, bad.
Yes.
Basically threatening someone.
Yeah.
Bad.
Yes.
But still being like, hey.
Yeah.
I don't want it unless you want it.
Right.
Points for Raven Shaddix.
I guess. Like the most
same kind of points we give to Walter Hill.
The same kind of points I give to the cop from Up, I guess.
Sure.
But yeah, so but
I also want to point out,
Ellen is having none of it. She's standing up for herself, even though she's tied to a bed. And Raven continues forcing kisses on her in the scene before leaving to go and enjoy boys' poker night.
Now that the forced kiss is something that neither of us like.
No,
whenever it happens, we don't like it.
Yeah.
But usually the forced kiss, when we don't like it, comes from the good guy.
Yeah, that's kind of the part.
It's sort of nice. It's sort of nice that, like, it's not good.
No.
But, like, in this movie, for the most part, I think, the forced kisses come from the baddie.
It's kind of like point that I made when we were reviewing Street Fighter, where Tsurugi sells a woman into sex slavery, and Tsurugi is the main character of the film, but we're never meant to think of Tsurugi as anything but a villain.
No, but usually forced kisses are a good guy thing.
Yes,
like,
and that's...
you don't know you're in love with me yet.
In this movie, the forced kiss is a bad guy thing, and that honestly makes it a lot better.
I also want to point out that the piano player for the band at Torchy's has very Rich Evans as Mr. Plinkett vibes.
Yes, and he's also great. He's just like a great piano player. Outside, Tom and his posse pile out of the car. They travel into the steam-filled factory area, where they meet a homeless dude played by Ed Begley Jr., named Ben Gunn in the credits after the person on the island in Treasure Island.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, is the person left behind by the old pirate crew.
Now, I'd say he's probably fourth on my favorite characters.
He is incredible.
And he's just Ed Begling it up.
Just
he's
Ed Begling it up.
Having so much fun.
He's the other... Like... I will say he's the other actor, aside from Rick Moranis, who gets how to deliver this dialogue the best. And he has some of the greatest lines where Rick Moranis is just, like, insulting the shit out of him. And he just looks at him like... He says, "Oh, you're dumb and short. Real short." He reminds me of the three witches from Scotland, PA.
One, it reminds me of the drifter that Homeboy meets in Halloween 3.
Yes.
And two, Ed Begley handles Rick Moranis better than Tom Cody does.
He does.
And Ed Begley's like smeared with chimney soot like just fucking Dick Van Dyke.
Literally, like, yeah, he's got, like, I don't know if they put in contacts, but something about the way his eyes are just, like, super piercing in this. Maybe Ed Begley just has beautiful eyes and I never noticed.
He does have beautiful eyes.
But yeah.
I have them in my dresser.
He says, and as they pay him for the information, he gives them the same information that Billy Fish already gave them, and they still make Billy Fish pay him for the information.
And Billy Fish even, like, says
that.
I said they were at Torchy's.
Why are we... It's great. The most relatable Billy Fish is in the entire film. But as they give him the money, he says, gotta keep moving forward. That's the whole point of things. Again, going nowhere fast is the theme of the movie.
I also want to point out that this op is taking place at 10 p.m.
Is it really?
Yes.
Okay.
Which is not very late.
No, but it's like in the dead of the night.
It's also so high school. It's like...
Yes. Oh my god, 10 p.m., the witching hour.
Yeah, my curfew's at 11, so we gotta go blow up motorcycles at 10.
That's right, you are still a teenager after all these years.
I joined the army at 13 like it's the fucking Civil War.
Tom sends Billy to get the getaway car and meet them back there in 15 minutes.
Yep.
While McCoy and he work on taking on the bombers directly. McCoy heads in the front while Tom sneaks around the back.
And let me point this out about the bombers.
Mm-hmm.
If I can say one thing about them.
Say what you want.
They love driving their motorcycles back and forth incessantly in front of Torchy's.
Yeah, well, sometimes
they go off a ramp.
Something you have to know about the bombers is they're not just like a gang, they are a standing army.
Yes.
There's like a 100 of these motherfuckers. So some of them are inside Torchy's having a grand old time in the poker table, enjoying the stripper, enjoying the band. But you don't want to break fire code. So a lot of them are outside just doing tricks on their motorcycle in front of Torchy's.
Exactly. So Tom posts up on a roof.
McCoy
goes inside and she gets accosted by a horny dude.
The Blasters are now playing a song called Blue Shadow. McCoy goes along with this horny dude and allows him to take her into the back and then pistol whips the shit out of him.
Knocks out another motherfucker.
So she can go and I thought search for Ellen, but it turns out she just wanted to...
McCoy's part of this plan makes no sense.
This whole plan makes no sense.
Like... Because she's going to go to the poker room and hold up Raven Shaddix.
Yes.
Even take their money.
No. Which, you should have taken their money.
McCoy totally should have taken that money.
Should have taken their money.
She should have been like, because they're offering her the money. They're like, yeah, take the money.
And they're not
holding us up.
And they're not above that. They steal from cops later. But like
So it's like, McCoy should have been like, I'm not here for your money.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I'll take it.
But she bursts in on the poker game, holds him at gunpoint. Raven is...
not impressed.
Unimpressed and seems disappointed by this. Like, Raven's character is...
petty larceny.
Fascinating.
You could be so much more.
Willem Dafoe's performance has such internal life to him. I fucking love it.
Raven Shaddix would be the big bad and the dragon of the series.
Raven Shaddix is ostensibly, from his actions, just some gang leader, just some punk. But, like... the way Willem Dafoe plays him, he is Darth Vader. He is like the samurai lord that Lone Wolf and Cub need to face at the end of their journey.
Yeah.
But yeah, Tom is posted up on a building as a sniper. He catches sight of Ellen tied to the bed and starts sniping bikers off. Each of his bullets
makes the bikes explode.
They're
explodercycles.
Coming this fall, explodercycles.
Oh my god, I watched that movie so
fast. By Yamaha. But yeah,
like you said, he has rocket bullets. And nobody dies. It's very A-Team, where it's like everyone manages to get off the bike before it explodes.
The explosions in this movie are the best kind of explosions. They are spectacular. They are so much flash.
And here's where, like, I said it when I watched it with you.
Yeah.
I say it when I watch it by myself. I go, streets of fire.
In my head, I kept thinking, I wrote this as my Letterboxd review. It's the dumbest joke, but just like a takeoff of that one scene from Friends where Joey's reading Little Women, and he's just like, these streets, how of fire are they? But
yeah,
he's sniping these bikers off. There's tons of practical explosions, and then this is where the whole plan falls apart. Tom teleports inside and rescues Ellen. It's a cool scene because he whips out a pocket knife and like
there was an earlier butterfly knife thing before
with the Roadmaster. So he took the butterfly knife from the Roadmasters. He cuts her bonds. They get her out of there. McCoy psychically realizes that Tom Cody got Ellen out, and she's like, bye fuckers, or whatever she says, and leaves. And
she does not say bye fuckers.
She doesn't.
I wish she did.
That's the energy of what she says. Our heroes run and fight their way out of the building. They're punching people. This is the best action set piece of the movie for my money.
Yes, especially once Tom Cody gets outside.
Yes, he tells them, you guys get out.
Because Rick Moranis has driven up in the car.
Yes.
He sends McCoy and Ellen along with him. He's just like, yeah, I'm going to stay here and rough these boys up a little bit more.
I, Tom Cody, alone am going to take on an entire army of fucking bikers and win while you guys get away.
And this
is not a self-sacrifice. He just
wants to fucking fight people.
He's just that powerful. And then, yes, he just starts, like, taking his rifle like a bat and knocking fuckers off of their bikes. He whips his rifle around like Arnold Schwarzenegger in T2, just cracking that reloader and then
lever action.
Lever action, thank you. I don't know guns, and firing it at tanks of gas, exploding motorcycles.
Yeah, hold on.
Sorry, I'm getting ahead of myself.
I just want to point out that during the sequence,
yeah,
Tom Cody is single-handedly taking on this gang.
Yeah.
Because conveniently, the gang does not fight together.
No.
Tom Cody just, like, starts beating up on one of them.
Yeah.
And you think that a gang would understand that, like,
yeah,
if we banded our forces together, maybe we could take on someone who is more powerful than us as an individual.
Yeah.
No, they don't do that. But yes, Tom Cody ends up blowing up the entirety of the battery.
It's martial arts movie rules. They all just sort of walk from side to side in a holding pattern until one of them falls and then another one comes in.
But yeah, Tom's spilling gas and then he shoots the pump and fucking
everywhere.
Blows up Torchy's.
And
all I can imagine, and granted, I realize now that Torchy's is in the middle of an abandoned warehouse.
Yes.
Probably does not have an official proprietor.
Yes.
But I just imagine some poor small business owner who's like, whose bar got taken over by the bombers and was like, oh no.
I'm imagining.
First the bombers, now the bomb!
I'm imagining that character who ran the soda shop in Happy Days just sort of coming out there being like, oh my god, you kids, what have you done to my place? And they're like,
no, it's Do the Right Thing. It's fucking Danny Aiello.
And the bombers are just like, sit on it, Potsy. But yeah, Tom steals a bike, is about to get away, and then Raven gets his coolest scene in the movie as he walks, still in his pleather overalls, out of the fire, looking around with the face of someone who has finally met a worthy opponent. This
chaos. Finally.
Spider-Man!
They called it the battery, but I've never seen any battery here until today.
Finally, I have met my match. He comes up, and it's just this operatic villain moment. And he tells Tom, he said, "What's your name?" And Tom says, "Tom Cody." He says,
you have 2 first names? That's dumb.
He says, "I'll be coming for her, and I'll be coming for you too." And Tom replies,
"Oh, this would be such a good Donkey Kong movie."
Oh my God, such a good Donkey Kong. But Tom replies, "Yeah, and I'll be waiting." And Raven smiles like this is exactly what he wanted.
We're going to see this in the final fight.
Yeah.
But anytime...
Raven is so cool.
It's like Willem Dafoe immediately clocks Michael Paré as not a good actor, and he's like, shit. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm going to have to really fucking try.
Yeah.
So I don't look like shit like in scenes with you.
Willem Dafoe in this movie is like the villain from the Hunchback of Notre Dame Disney movie. Like he's that much... Frollo, yeah. Like that levels of epic villainy in this performance. The co-writer of the movie, Larry Gross, said that he thought Willem Dafoe was the best part of this movie.
One of them.
Yeah, definitely.
McCoy, Raven Shaddix, the music, the cinematography, the choreography. There's a lot of goodness.
There's a lot of greatness in this movie, but Willem Dafoe is always the best.
As far as...
is one of the best parts of any movie he's in. So,
again,
of course.
like, here's what's interesting about acting is... we both agree that Amy Madigan is fantastic as McCoy.
Absolutely.
And we agree that Rick Moranis is fantastic as Billy Fish.
Absolutely.
And we agree that Willem Dafoe is fantastic as Raven Shaddix.
Yes.
They are all 3 doing different types of acting.
That's incredibly accurate, yes.
Because Amy Madigan is like, I'm going to live in this world.
Yeah.
Rick Moranis is like, I'm going to be above this world.
Well, that's what the character calls for.
Yeah. And Willem Dafoe is going, I'm going to own this world. I'm going to be king shit of fuck mountain.
I am Emperor Palpatine in this universe.
Yes.
Yeah, no, yeah, absolutely. More as they get away, more shots of the incredible city sets. Now, I will say, in the back half, I feel like the movie does kind of fall off a bit for me.
I still enjoy it, especially...
the movie turns into a completely different movie in the back half.
At parts.
Yeah.
I still enjoy a lot of it.
Well, in the first half of the movie is, again, this is a collection of movies that Walter Hill saw when he was a kid. So the first half of this movie is The Searchers. It's this like, hey, this woman was kidnapped by a violent evil force. We have to go and we have to get her back. In the logic of The Searchers.
Okay.
Using the logic of the movies being made. In this second half of the movie is Stagecoach. It's the long or Silverado. It's the long wagon train journey back.
Now we got to get Ellen Aim back to the stage.
We're traveling through enemy territory. We are. It's a collection of kooky characters all together in this enclosed environment.
Get to the most important character of the film soon.
Most important character coming through because they have, even though it took them barely 5 seconds to get to the Torchies, apparently there's so much battery they have to travel through to get back to. I think Richmond is the name of their place.
No, what this movie is the Warriors again. Like they have to get home.
There you go. They have to get home. As it turns out, Billy, this whole movie, didn't know that Ellen and Tom used to be a thing until he's told in this scene by and McCoy, realizing that she now has something to fuck with Billy about, decides that is going to be her life's goal, to make Billy feel as insecure as possible by just like, even though she doesn't know shit about the relationship between Ellen and Tom, aside from a couple lines she shared with Reva earlier, she keeps telling Billy what a great love story for the ages Tom and Ellen shared. Just making Billy feel as small as possible.
And again, kudos to the character of Billy. Like, again, he gets baited a bit, but he's so narcissistic that he's still like, I'm better than him. Yeah.
No, immediately. He like, this is definitely the smallest we get to see Billy, but he's still Billy. He's still Billy the Fish, as I refuse to call him anything but that. Ellen does take Tom aside and wants to bury the hatchet from their relationship, but Tom is too much of an asshole to let that happen.
Yeah, I just thought, like, I could do better.
Yeah, right.
I meet a lot of women.
Sure. As this movie keeps insisting.
Name a woman.
Ellen DeGeneres.
I met her.
Oh, cool.
Name another one.
I can only think of Ellen DeGeneres now for some reason. Oprah Winfrey.
I met her.
You met Oprah Winfrey.
Met all of the women.
You met all of the women.
Name a third one.
Raven-Symoné.
I met her.
Cool. All right. Anyway.
And the fourth one.
I think we're done with this segment.
Met her.
In the first and only non-diegetic musical number of the movie, as our heroes travel on foot through what appears to be a red light district out of the Blade Runner universe, Ellen sings Sorcerer by Stevie Nicks. They run into a young lady named Baby Doll.
The most important character in the film.
Vital.
Crucial. If you want to understand any of the themes or symbolism in this movie, Baby Doll is your Rosetta Stone.
Learn cinema, learn Baby Doll.
Yes.
She's played by
E.G. Daily.
E.G. Daily, famous.
The voice of Tommy Pickles.
Also the voice of Buttercup of the original 3 Powerpuff Girls. And again, she comes up and says, "Hey, who are you guys? Where are you going?" And Billy the Fish, or Billy Fish, responds, "We're nobody, going nowhere." Again, going nowhere fast. Baby Doll, turns out, is a big fan of Ellen, has recognized her, and lets them know that the cops are after them for burning down Torchies. Which, the fact that there are any cops who care about anything in this illegal happening in this movie does not make sense to me. Although they do explain it that the cops are just, like, basically another gang.
Yeah.
Which, I mean...
They are.
Yeah. But, like, in this movie's universe as well, they are also that. And they're just kind of looking to, fuck with people.
Yeah.
But yes, so they beg for a ride from a man that they run into with a van named Bird, who's a driver and a driver for the band and also a member of the band called the Sorrells.
And I love the Sorrells. And the
Sorrells
are made up of some very familiar actors.
Yeah, a bunch of character actors, none of which do the actual singing for the Sorrells.
No, unfortunately. And we'll get into it.
We'll get into it as we go, yeah.
But I just want to... Some of the Sorrells. McKelty Williamson, who played Bubba in Forrest Gump.
Awesome.
Robert Townsend, a very big figure in the 80s, most known for his movie Hollywood Shuffle.
Okay.
Stoney Jackson. Grand Bush. Stoney Jackson is their leader, their front man, Bird, and the rest are backing singers.
Yeah, one of them I
love the Sorrells.
I don't remember which one of them. One of them is one of the 2 Agent Johnsons from the first Die Hard.
Okay.
So there's that as well. But the Sorrells are great. They're in this broken down Mystery Machine van.
Yeah.
And they're as they mention, because at first, of course, as you might be, they're a little bit peeved that they get kidnapped, because after asking Bird nicely to use his van, they just hold them at gunpoint and take their van. They're annoyed by being taken hostage, but then they realize that they're with Ellen Aim! Holy shit!
And they're like, hey, do you need an opening act?
Yeah, because they decide to turn this kidnapping into a networking opportunity.
Might as well.
Hey, that's that hustle, man. That's that hustle. All about that hustle.
They perform a song I really enjoy called Countdown to Love.
Yeah, sort of a doo-wop number. Sort of
doo-wop, and they're doing it acoustically, obviously, because they're in the van.
Yes.
And my big disappointment is on the soundtrack, it is a full instrumental version. Like, it's not the acoustic version. It's still a great doo-wop song.
Yeah. But I want that version from the movie.
It has all this cheesy synth in it.
Yeah.
And
which makes sense because it is a soundtrack of Streets of Fire, but like at the same time.
80s, yeah. In the movie, the Sorrells' vocals are performed by a man called Winston Ford.
Okay.
Who just fucking worked at a Radio Shack.
Oh my God.
And
good for Winston Ford.
Yeah, but not so good for Winston Ford is the big number the Sorrells do at the end. Mm-hmm. On the soundtrack, it's not his version. Countdown to Love is his version.
Okay.
And I believe he also had a backing group because it's a doo-wop number. He has a backing group.
Sure.
But yeah, no, they perform this song. I love it. And even McCoy loves it. She's driving the bus.
Yes.
And she goes, ha, it's pretty good, guys.
Yeah. McCoy is hard to impress, but when she likes something, she likes something. But and she's also a big fan of Ellen Aim. When she meets her as they're running out of torches, she's like, "Hey, big fan!" As they're going out there. But yeah, our heroes encounter a police barricade. They have Billy go and sort of try and talk them out of it. Billy tries again, no fucking fear in the face.
Absolutely not. He's not like, oh man, I don't know what to do. Tom, what do I do?
Right. No.
Billy is a fucking
Billy has nothing...
not a good man, but he's a man.
He has nothing but confidence in himself. He goes right up to them.
He's smooth as shit. They come on board the bus. They're
Yeah.
like, he's like, no, I'm a manager for the Sorrells. You never heard of the Sorrells? Like,
Yeah.
So we got a problem here. Do we need to come to some sort of financial solution?
He's like, hey, I don't. All I know is we're late for a gig. So do you have something you want to say, or can I come to some sort of financial arrangement or something like that? Like, absolutely in control of the situation at all times. The cops do accept a bribe almost immediately.
But then they're like, hey, why did you want to bribe us so bad?
Yeah, they're like, hey, and then I do think that they make explicit reference to the race of the Sorrells.
Yeah.
Say,
No, they do. They call him a very old slur.
Yeah, that I did not recognize and didn't write down, because why would I?
It's like from the 30s.
Gotcha. Weird thing about this movie's available for rent on Amazon Prime, which is how I watched it, and it's not available with subtitles. So
Really?
There were a couple of lines I wanted to read because I wasn't sure of what they said, and you just can't... Yeah, so they decide, hey, we're cops. Here are some black people. Let's do what comes naturally. So
all hell breaks loose, and
about-
everyone breaks from the plane. Is like, let's beat up some cops.
They're about to fuck up some shit, and in a scene that has aged incredibly well, like fine fucking wine, Tom and McCoy are like, well, plan B, and whip out their cannons and just start bullying the shit out of these cops.
Yeah.
They just they have them drop their guns, they have them lie on the ground, they steal all of their wallets, and then they just start blowing up their cars, running over their cars with the van. It was so fucking satisfying.
Yeah, it was great. It was great, and like...
The only thing that could have made it better is if the Sorrells also got to bully the cops. I understand
Yes.
they're not the heroes of this movie, but that would have made me happy.
So happy.
But yes, unfortunately, because of the kind of movie this is, they don't kill the cops, and so the cops are alive, and then they get to call in, which means that now, after already having to they already had to dump the hot rod that they were driving to go
They now
into the
have to
battery.
dump the Sorrells'
They now have
bus.
to drop the bus and make the rest of their way on foot. They grab a subway ride the rest of the way, and the Sorrells are, struggling musicians. They left
they're like-
all their equipment,
their
all
clothes.
their clothes, all their sheet music in the car.
All because of these honkies.
All because of these fucking honkies, man. McCoy valiantly tries to wingman Tom with Ellen, but loses her temper too easily when Ellen doesn't acquiesce to that, which I thought was a cute scene. McCoy doesn't know how much of a dick Tom is. She only knows that Tom has been nice to her, so she thinks that Ellen's being unreasonable, but no. It is Tom who's being unreasonable. Our heroes return to town. They march right into the police precinct and file a report on Ellen's kidnapping and rescue.
As you do. After you've burnt down a quarter of the city.
Ellen and Billy go to leave town immediately, with Ellen telling Tom that she hates him for taking money to save her.
Mm-hmm. Fair.
Yeah. Especially because Tom has been holding that fact over her like, oh yeah, I would have let you die, but I like money. Like, he's been really playing that up as they've been traveling.
Yeah.
Raven gets a meeting with the police officer in charge, whose name is Officer Price. This is the guy from V that we mentioned.
Okay.
Officer Price. He gets a meeting with Officer Price, and he says, me and two of my boys are coming into town, and we're going to kill Tom Cody. If you let me do it, you won't have any further trouble from me. So do your job, man. Keep the peace. Which is, especially in light of recent events at the time of recording this, fucking haunting. Tom is depressed because he's too much of a dick to make things work with Ellen. McCoy tries to cheer him up, but Tom just starts being a dick to her too.
Yep.
And drives her away. And then Reva says the smartest thing anyone says in the whole movie: you and Billy are just the same. You're both selfish.
Yeah.
And then the scene cuts her off before she can continue to beat sense into her brother.
Is it here where we start to get the rumblings of the Reva-McCoy relationship? Or at least the attraction?
I never got any rumblings of that relationship.
Really? That's a lie. We both talked about this when we first saw it.
Okay, not at this viewing then, and I forgot about it.
No, I definitely shipped Reva and McCoy. Like, they have some moments.
I would absolutely love to see a relationship there. I think that the biggest moment we already skipped over, is when Tom is going to get his guns. It keeps cutting back to a scene of Reva and McCoy walking out of the apartment together and just sort of talking about Tom's history.
But no, I definitely got Reva McCoy vibes.
I mean, I would love that. They are fantastic, and they would be fantastic together.
We definitely talked about this on the first viewing.
I'm sure that we did. I didn't remember. But Officer Price shows up to tell Tom what Raven has planned and tells him to get out of town and leave Raven to him. We've transitioned to the third Western we're making into this movie, and of course it's High Noon.
Yes.
Tom goes up to see Ellen before she leaves.
Here's one of my favorite moments in the movie.
Okay.
Because Baby Doll is still hanging around.
Oh, that's right!
Despite being...
Baby Doll got on the van with them and has just been with them doing nothing for the rest of the movie. And barely having any lines. She has one bit where she gets her biggest bit of dialogue.
She talks to Ellen and she's like, hey, I try to write songs like you and I just can't do it, the rhymes and everything. And Ellen's like, I don't write my songs.
And she's like, but you make them your own.
When you sing them, you make them your own. And Ellen's like, I guess.
Ellen, I don't feel too bad about Ellen. Ellen has a lot going on, and she doesn't need to be like trying to placate a fangirl right now.
So Baby Doll's still there.
Yeah.
And Tom Cody comes in, and he says, she opens the door, and he says to her, what the hell are you still doing here? And as if Baby Doll realizes she has no point in the film, she's like, hey, I'll see you guys later.
Yeah, and then she's just gone.
She's gone. It's like, bye, Baby Doll. Thanks for being part of the movie.
I don't think she even shows up during the climax.
No.
Yeah.
She serves no fucking point.
And in the climax, every character comes back except for Ed Begley Jr. and Baby Doll.
Fuck. Maybe they got married. Maybe that's why they weren't there.
God.
They met and they fell in love.
What the fuck? Anyway, but yeah, he goes up to see Ellen before she leaves, and this is when I realize, during the scene I realize that there's a fourth movie they're remaking. I'll get into it in a second. Back
to the Future.
Yes.
They're pre-making
that, yes. Billy the Fish tries to pay Tom, and he takes...
No, here's the 1,000 I owe McCoy.
Yes.
The rest I'm going to throw in your face. And he doesn't apologize to Ellen in this scene, but he throws the money back at Billy, and he goes up to her and says that he really loved her, and basically just throws the blame for the relationship ending entirely on her, which she did end it, but still. And then fucking walks right out of there, and this is enough for Ellen. Him throwing the money back, even though she didn't get an apology, is enough for her to like right back on the Tom train. She runs out and meets him in the rain outside. It's a sad scene, so it's raining. Says like, "What could I have done? What could I have done what did I do that was wrong?" And he doesn't answer her. They just make out in the rain, and then they have sex. And she's like, "Let's run away together." And I realized it's the Quiet Man. Okay. I've never seen The Quiet Man.
Again, just like we were with Michael Paré, he's trying to recreate fucking John Wayne.
Yes.
In this relationship, he's trying to recreate the dynamic between John Wayne and Maureen O'Hara. And since you don't know The Quiet Man, I won't get into it, but like it's...
I think you mean The Quiet Man.
But the relationship is... She's this firebrand that needs to be put in her place.
Gotcha.
There's this thing about like the miscommunication between them is about money, and him getting the money and then throwing it away is how they get back together. The big scene where they kiss is in the rain. And here's the thing about The Quiet Man. The Quiet Man is a classic movie that I love. The relationship in that movie is toxic and rapey, and it only works because that movie was released in like 52.
Yeah.
This movie is released in 84. Even as much as the 80s had a fucking hard-on for the 50s, we've moved on. Stop that. But yeah, so that's why this relationship is so fucked up, because they're trying to recreate a relationship from a movie that had a relationship that didn't fucking work in the first place. But yes, Ellen and Billy have sex. She wants to run away with Tom, and Tom is immediately over the relationship. He's won the argument, and now he's done. Pays McCoy the money, actually apologizing to McCoy.
Yep.
Because he cares more about McCoy than he cares about Ellen, apparently. And then he asks McCoy for relationship advice. McCoy says that she used to be in love with a guy who treated her bad, and then she ends it with, of course, that was before I was a soldier, which is the bit that you were talking about, where soldier is definitely code there. But yes, Tom enlists McCoy's help for something I don't want to do. He takes Ellen on a train ride, saying they're running away, and then literally clocks her in the fucking head.
Yeah, no.
Clocks her in the fucking head.
Definitely a throwback to Westerns.
Oh,
where it was
yeah.
just like, I need to knock this broad out so I can do what's best for her.
Exactly. Yeah. Very the quiet man, just dragging Maureen O'Hara through the fucking sheep shit on the Irish countryside to show her that you listened. Man, the quiet man has so many problems. Yeah, he knocks her out and leaves her with McCoy, so he can go back into town and face off with Raven. He can't get back on the train that he wants to because the bombers have set fire to the train tracks.
Yep.
Which
is not really important.
It's not really important because he just shows up later anyway, but whatever.
Yeah, the showdown.
We have learned that he can teleport from earlier,
yes.
So. But the Raven and his two bombers arrive in town for the high noon showdown.
And Raven summons the bombers.
Oh, wait a second. The cops come to try and arrest him, and when Raven realizes the deal isn't being adhered to, he summons the bombers.
With an air horn that is clearly just covered in tape and is like spray painted bronze.
Yeah.
But it looks like this weird steampunk thing.
Yes.
And it's an amazing character flourish that makes no fucking sense, but is my favorite thing.
It's a wonderful prop. It's one of those like little details that makes this world feel its own thing. Like, you wouldn't find that anywhere else. Like, even a movie actually set in the 50s or the 20s, no one has that shit.
No one has this fucking bronze air horn that they use to summon the gang.
Yeah.
It's fucking brilliant, and it's fucking Raven Shaddix.
It's Raven Shaddix all the way
over.
Down. That's my favorite John Green book, is Raven Shaddix All the Way Down. It's a quite big departure from his usual style. Billy, in an uncharacteristic act of selflessness, or maybe just because he's
the hero of this movie.
He's the most powerful human on Earth.
He's the hero of the movie for himself.
He is like in the diner, I think, and sees that Raven Shaddix is about to cause trouble. Sees this army forming behind him. Busts out the door, stomps with all the authority of the fucking king of the universe right up into Raven's fucking
Rick
face.
Moranis.
Yes, right up into short, tiny Rick Moranis, right up to Raven Shaddix's face, is like, "Hey, buddy, get the fuck out of my town." Again, doesn't say that, but that's the vibe.
That's the vibe.
That's the energy.
Vibe.
And Raven just, I think, like, just full 300 kicks Rick Moranis to the curb, knocks Rick Moranis right down.
But Tom Cody shows up in short order.
Well, Clyde is there to see what was going to happen.
Yes.
And when this happens, when he sees Billy get knocked down, the army show up, we think he's running away. He's not, but he runs off.
Oh, he's forming a posse.
He's fucking forming a posse, motherfuckers. But yes, Tom apparently regenerated in between scenes, because not only does he suddenly have his hot rod back with no explanation, but also he suddenly has sleeves again.
Yes.
And he shows up, he takes off his jacket, revealing his sleeves, and he comes out of the car and he marches into the arena. Raven says, "I brought something special just for you, Tom." And Officer Price, in another one of the greatest lines and one of the greatest line deliveries in this movie, passes Tom on the way into the death pit, into the way into the Thunderdome, and he turns to him and says, "Well, my plan went to shit. Let's see how you do." Kick his ass.
And now we have. This tickled me so much. Every watch.
Yeah.
It's a sledgehammer fight.
Yeah.
It's a fucking sledgehammer fight.
Yeah.
And my only gripe, because some bomber goon throws them both sledges.
Yeah, this is the special weapon that he brought just for his fight with Tom.
But I wish this was like somehow more germane to Raven Shaddix. Like he executed motherfuckers or he hobbled motherfuckers.
We saw that the hammer was a thing with him.
Oh, did
earlier.
we?
No, I'm saying that this is what you want.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, you wish
like,
that
he was like
there was something involving hammers that was important to him earlier.
You called the duel, I choose the weapons.
Yeah, there you go. But yeah, no, I do think that would be great.
Like if that were his signature weapon.
Yeah, this scene is iconic.
It's great.
All on its own.
It's great. Here's what I was referring to earlier.
Okay.
Michael Paré is underselling because he's a fucking dud. Like,
Yeah.
he's trying.
Yep.
And meanwhile, Willem Dafoe realizes he's up against a dud.
Yes.
So, Willem Dafoe is overselling like a motherfucker.
Yeah, no, this-
His facial expressions are insane.
This is I don't watch wrestling, but my friends who are fans of wrestling, the way that they've described, if you had like John Cena or Roman Reigns on one side in the Michael Paré bit versus, I don't know, a good wrestler on the other side who's just like they know that they have
they're
to
trying to make up for the balance of energy.
the face has to go over, so the heel has to make it look like these lame ass moves that they're doing are just the most incredible epic moves ever, and they're just getting wrecked. That's what Willem Dafoe is doing in the scene, and he does it really fucking well.
It's good.
The scene survives on the sweat of Willem Dafoe's brow.
It does. It's goofy as shit if you're really paying attention to it. This is my third watch, so I was like, I was zooming in on that.
The first time I watched it, I remember thinking the scene was really lame. The second time I watched it, I loved this scene.
I loved it the first. I still love it.
Yeah.
I've always loved it because it's a fucking sledgehammer fight.
Yeah, where do you... And I think that is something that I read somewhere, Walter Hill saying, where else are you going to get this? That's why I picked it.
But just how much Willem Dafoe is trying to sell this shit.
Yeah.
And eventually, Tom Cody, like, disarms him. Mm-hmm. And Tom Cody is like, he does the honorable thing where it's like, okay. I'm not going to smash your melon like Gallagher.
Yes.
I'm going to toss my hammer aside.
And again, there's this internal life that Willem Dafoe's character has. You see on his face, the fact that Tom Cody didn't kill him, that's an insult.
It's not only, I don't know.
That's it. No, not from Tom Cody. Tom Cody isn't thinking of it as that. By Willem Dafoe's Raven Shaddix's internal code of honor, that you do not do.
See, I disagree with you.
Okay.
I think it's more that it's just like, oh, Tom Cody's the dumbest man alive. Because I'm Raven Shaddix, the most dangerous man alive. So I'm going to fucking take advantage of this.
The way that I read it, he doesn't seem happy that he threw his hammer away. He seems furious. Like, he goes full,
No, he gives
launches
out
himself.
An amazing fucking scream.
An amazing Dafoe face, and just launches himself in.
See, I took it the other direction where it's just like, now it's time for my berserker. Now it's time for my second form. You disarmed me, but now I'm becoming more powerful.
Yeah, Raven Shaddix goes into a rage in D&D terms, and he's going to be rolling...
He fucking...
And then he rolls some new attacks, and he rolls an unarmed attack. Also, during this fight, while they're fighting, Clyde shows up with the posse. He's gathered together a whole bunch of street toughs. They all have their rifles, and they all get together. Now we have a standing army as well. Facing
and now here's where I was like, I know how this ends, but just like, okay. There's cops. Mm-hmm. There's an armed gang. And now there's an armed civilian militia.
Yeah.
This is going to become a bloodbath that will take years to sort out.
Right. And
but it doesn't.
It doesn't. So the end of this fight is great. Tom beats the shit out of Raven until Raven is literally just standing there doing the Mortal Kombat, waiting for the special move wobble, and then Tom goes up to him and lightly shoves him, and he just crumples again in a scene that Walter Hill probably loves The Quiet Man, and he took
Yeah.
a lot from the fight scene between John Wayne and I forget the other actor, Victor McLagan, I think is the other actor's name from that movie, which is also famously the inspiration for the fight scene from
They Live.
They Live. But yeah, the bikers not wanting a war and out of respect for Tom's victory, they know the warrior
Jesus
code.
Christ, they bear him away.
Yep, they pick up Raven and they leave town peacefully, leaving. The rules of the combat were
Exactly.
if they
It goes back to
allowed,
like the 1950s ideals, the Western ideals.
if
of
they
like,
allowed Raven his shot at Tom Cody, whatever the outcome, they were going to leave them in peace. And since they abided by that in the end, they're going to leave. They have gotten rid of the Cavendish gang for now. And you were hoping for more of a Dark Knight Rises sort of like War in the City kind of thing.
I wasn't hoping for that. I was just like, if this happened in real life, there would be dead bodies everywhere.
Yes, yeah.
And like everybody would be shooting at everyone.
Oh, yes, absolutely.
But now we get one last concert.
We get one last concert, including what I think is probably the biggest hit
Oh, it
of the movie.
absolutely is. You will hear this in supermarkets.
Yeah.
The Sorrells do an amazing number. And these gents are all just like character actors.
Yes.
But they do amazing fucking choreography.
And we know that from Walter Hill that they didn't rehearse very much. So this is
Yeah.
all very, like,
the song I
last
Can Dream
minute
About
choreography.
You. The song I Can Dream About You. I can dream about you.
Yeah.
If I can't hold you tonight.
That big hit that you've heard on every the 80s, 90s, and now station is from this fucking movie.
Now again, much like Countdown to Love, this was recorded by Fred Winston.
Yes.
But, and I think he had a backing band with him for this, because this is a big doo-wop number.
Oh, yeah.
This was written by a man named Dan Hartman. And Dan Hartman did some sort of shady contract shit.
Yeah.
All perfectly legal, because it's a contract, but
Yes.
he was sort of a dick about it. He was big in the music scene before this, but he was like, okay, on the soundtrack, it's going to be my vocals.
Yeah.
Not Fred Winston's.
Fred Winston can be in the movie, but I get to be in the track that's going to get the widest distribution.
Yes. And it is very hard to find it is impossible as far as I've seen.
Yeah.
To find like even just this scene of the movie.
Yeah.
So you can watch the amazing choreography these men are doing.
Yeah, no, they're really
This is
doing the
one of the
choreography pretty well.
Best fake bands I've ever seen.
Yeah.
Like, I would love to see these dudes in concert.
Right. No, fucking this band, especially if they were opening for Ellen Aim and the Attackers,
Exactly.
I would love that.
And I actually love I Can Dream About You much more than I like the ending song. I enjoy the ending song more with each watch.
Yeah.
But it's not as strong as Nowhere Fast.
Nothing is as strong as Nowhere Fast.
And I Can Dream About You has that fucking amazing choreography and the amazing
Yes.
energy of these men.
Yeah, but so Tom connects with Billy backstage before heading out. Billy is now the manager of the Sorrells in real life.
Yes.
Not just in lies. And Billy's telling Tom, like, hey, you and Ellen, I understand that there's something there, and like Billy's kind of turned over a new leaf. He's like, oh, sure.
Well, Billy's just,
I'm going to be respectful.
Billy's the fucking hero of his own movie where he's like,
absolutely.
I don't need to compete with you.
Yeah, exactly.
You want Ellen? Take Ellen.
Yeah.
I'm not going to be like a jealous cuck.
Sure. But Tom is like, hey, Ellen needs you, and Billy says, yeah, I know she needs me. She wants you. Which is full Billy. But he says, yeah, Ellen, I'm going to leave Ellen, and you can explain to her why, because I'm Tom Cody, the worst.
Yes.
But he leaves and runs into Ellen. Ellen doesn't get a say in her personal life. In fact, again, the reason why Tom was so mad at her earlier is because she decided to make a decision about her own personal life, and that's not allowed. They leave, they have a last kiss goodbye, and then Ellen plays us out with the song Tonight Is What It Means to Be Young.
Also written by Jim Steinman.
Simon with the same sort of Meatloaf vibes to it. Again, not as good as Nowhere Fast, but still pretty great.
I enjoy it more the more I listen to.
Yeah.
It's fucking ridiculous.
Yeah, of course it is. It's a Jim Steinman
The
number.
only line I can always remember is, And a boy is the next best thing to an angel.
Oh God. Yeah, it's again. I think much like Nowhere Fast. This is another sort of like
a big sweeping
thesis statement on the movie as well, because it's whereas Nowhere Fast
the high school drama and shit.
Yeah, like this is a world where there are almost no adults. There are like maybe 5 adults in the whole movie. Everyone's a teenager.
But I still love this sequence because one, the cinematography. The concert cinematography is on point. The Sorrells come back out. Yeah, they're acting as backups with the face-to-face. It's fucking incredible. They're dancing a little bit.
They're doing dance choreography in the background, yeah.
And I'm like, it's
great.
I would love... I would just love if there were a fake concert film of just the Sorrells and Ellen Haim.
Absolutely.
Because it's shot so amazingly, and like the backlighting, the smoke, the lasers, it's all so fucking good.
It's so good. But
and so much fist pumping.
So much fist pumping.
Everyone just fist pumping all the time.
It's the motherfucking 80s. Tom and McCoy leave town together in what is now McCoy's hot rod.
Yes.
She stole it. That's the end of the film. A couple of things before we wrap. Streets of Fire was intended to be the first in a projected trilogy, like we said, called the overall title was going to be The Adventures of Tom Cody. The titles for the other 2 movies in the trilogy were
Tom Cody Against the World Crime League.
Exactly. No, The Far City and Cody's Return. From Larry Gross about the night that they found out that the movie hadn't done so well. Joel Silver got off the phone with Universal and said, "We're dead."
Oh.
We sat down, I remember, in a little park in downtown LA, and we started giggling in that way people do when things are terrible. There's a song in the movie called "Tonight is What It Means to Be Young," and I remember in the park Joel saying, "Today is what it means to be dead."
Oh, clever.
And an unofficial sequel was eventually made, as I mentioned earlier, called Road to Hell, which was made in 2008, directed by Albert Pyun, and with Paray playing Cody and Deborah Van Valkenburg.
Sorry.
That's all right. And Deborah Van Valkenburg, whoever that is, playing his sister Reva Cody.
Well, I think she played Reva in the original.
Oh, was that? Okay, so
credits.
Reva comes back. That's good. But it's about him protecting Ellen's daughter. And Ellen's daughter performs both Nowhere Fast and Tonight is What It Means to Be Young, which, of course, in a movie where Michael Paré is old as shit, no longer has any meaning. But that is Streets of Fire. Any final thoughts about that, Brad?
No, I think we covered everything pretty much. I love this film. You should definitely watch it. It's so much fun. It's
so much fun.
Again, like we talked about in Holy Mountain, you can't say most unique or most singular.
No.
But these are movies that make you want to be like, yeah, nothing is more unique than this. It's so, like, you're not going to find another film like this. Maybe more so than Holy Mountain, but it's with this.
You're more likely to find a movie like this than Holy Mountain, but
for it to hit on all cylinders with the music, the cinematography, the production design, it's not going to happen.
This movie is what this show and your entire concept of The Hunt is about.
Yeah,
it's about finding the shit that's not necessarily like the most artsy or the most
insane or the most outre.
It's just finding that good shit that's nobody fucking talks about.
Different. That's
not
fucking hits.
This movie is not The Warriors. It's not Die Hard or 48 Hours. This movie
is a rock and roll fable.
This movie is nothing but Streets of Fire.
Exactly.
And that is special. That's worthy of celebration.
And it's even more special that it collapsed in on itself and was not a huge hit. This is a big swing.
Yeah.
And the big swings that don't connect are my favorite because you took that fucking swing.
Yeah.
And it didn't pay off, but we got what we got.
We got Streets of Fire, and you can never take that away. Yeah.
You can't.
Until
legally, according to the Constitution.
Right.
You cannot.
The Constitution of Canada.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. In America, you can do whatever you want.
Yeah.
But yes, so that is Streets of Fire, and thanks very much. Thanks very much for listening.
Bye-bye.